What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Jedi Jive Live, number 10. Put your hands together. 10 weeks in a row. So proud of everybody. Yeah, the weeks are flying by. New episode of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. This is definitely not an action episode. This was an acting and emotion and character development episode. And we can't wait to talk about it. We're glad you guys are here. We already see familiar faces. We see some new faces. Can't wait to hear you guys and your questions in the chat. Going live in a couple minutes. Stick around. What is up, everybody? We are going to go live in a few seconds. Hope you brought your questions. We have Jenny, the illustrious Jenny, the incomparable Jenny. We have the all-new nerds, including brand new guest Levi. Yes, the honorary guest Levi. So here we go, everybody. Welcome to Jedi Jive Live, number 10. Like I said, put your hands together for us. I'm going to applaud us because I'm proud of everybody here. Levi, you're new. You're a new guy this week.
Hey.
We look forward to hearing from you, but definitely, specifically, John and Dylan, thank you guys so much. 10 weeks in a row. I know this is a little bit of a time commitment. You guys have got school. You guys have got to deal with the COVID world like the rest of us. It's always, but technically that should make things easier because we're all at home. Ready?
It's like the best thing to
for
be doing other than school. Honestly.
No, I know, yes.
Everybody in the chat for keep coming back every week.
Yeah.
So, it means a lot.
So yeah, this is definitely the best part of the week for us because, second best for me. Well, I guess I'm talking with you now, Jenny, but Jenny and I are brother and sister, and this is like doing Marvel content every week has been like a great bonding experience for us too. We've been able to just like hang out with each other, and now we get to come on here every weekend and talk about
in the night in Mike's basement.
Yeah, literally. I don't know, Levi, are you East Coast as well, or are you?
I am West Coast, so it is
You're West Coast, yeah.
Noon right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
It's
right.
not,
Yeah.
You don't got to stay up nearly.
No.
We got to go 3 a.m. I don't, but you crazies do. I'll
Yeah,
do it
and
for Star Wars, but I can wait a little bit on Falcon.
And I haven't.
Actually, that's a good
literally
question.
Drive from my house to Mike's house at like 2 a.m. so that we can sit in his freezing cold basement in front of a green screen at 3 a.m. and do this. That's how much we love the MCU.
That's called
and
dedication,
us.
people. That's
Yes,
Yeah, what's the time zone in Madripoor, Mike?
I don't know.
It's mystical. It
Wait,
can't be
yeah.
explained in human numbers.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was gonna say something, but I don't have a response.
Anyway, yeah, this is definitely the best time of the week for us because we get to come on here and nerd out about all the stuff that we love. And obviously, all new nerds, Jedi Jive, Levi, I think you as well. We got a lot of Star Wars fans in here, but obviously the Star Wars content isn't quite here yet. Bad Batch is coming in a month or less than a month now. It's a couple weeks.
A couple weeks, yeah.
Super excited. Actually, which reminds me, we were just talking about like staying up late to watch stuff. Do we know, is Bad Batch going to be a 3 a.m. drop for us as well?
I'm
Is that-
guessing.
I
I mean, that seems to be the precedent. So.
Yeah, they haven't. It's Mandalorian was like that. Everything has been like that.
Yeah.
So Disney Plus, we can just assume it's in the middle of the night.
Sadly for the East Coast people.
It tends to be a model for like all streaming
tough 3 a.m.
services is
Yeah.
the midnight drop. Not all of them are adhering to like different time zones. Sometimes it's just,
Yeah.
midnight,
Yeah.
but like
I don't know what the policy is on that premiere episode because sometimes I know like when Disney Plus launched, it was different. it was at like 9 or something, and if with the premiere, because it's 70 minutes, I don't know if they'll put that out at midnight, but I think that's probably the safest bet.
Yeah, season 1 of Mando was 9 a.m., right?
The first episode, I believe.
Oh, that's right. They did like a Wednesday and then a Friday.
And that's happening this because
because
May the 4th is a Tuesday. So
right.
That and from what we know, first episode of Bad Batch is 70 minutes. Is that what
70 minutes? Yes.
Yeah, baby.
Okay.
Yeah, baby.
So I mean, that's gonna be a long morning for the reactor channels. Yeah, we don't just we don't just wait until 3 a.m. We also I also edit for like the next like 3-4 hours after that. So it's the whole day for me is just a.
Yeah, I always feel terrible. I'm like, okay, buddy, you good? And then like I drive home at 4 a.m. and he's like, okay, I'm gonna make this video now. Bye.
My sleeping schedule on Thursday night into Friday is not correct.
Okay, so while we're
Not right.
Oh wait, my furnace just kicked on. Can you guys hear that? No, you probably can't.
No.
Good, awesome. Good. I don't want to freeze down here.
Too warm.
All right, so wait, let's get into it, man. Let's talk some Marvel. Obviously we can talk a little bit of Star Wars at the end, but today we're talking about Marvel. We want to talk about Falcon and the Winter Soldier episode 5, the penultimate episode. One more episode to go. Jenny and I were commenting on how before this episode, like, wow, there's just so many little plot lines, storylines that like we're going to need to at least touch on before we get to the end here, because they had so many little things that they started and like sort of haven't gotten back to, but they did end up even closing up a couple storylines here. Like Zemo kind of got wrapped up nicely. That might be kind of done for now. That obviously that storyline will continue, but
I don't think so.
As far as this season, it looks like
I think we're gonna get a stinger with Thunderbolt Ross and Zemo at the raft.
Yeah. Okay. You think that they're gonna do the post credit scene, and you think that's gonna be Zemo's gonna be post credit?
U.S. agent has been in the team.
I have a different idea.
Don't forget, they could do multiple post-credit scenes. They've done that where it'll. Yeah.
I have a bit of a theory about that, but we'll get into it later. I want to hear the rest of this like intro first.
Everybody knows that there was an end credit scene at the end of this episode, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and it was cool, and we talked about how it.
No.
I mean, we can. I mean, if you want to talk about it now.
Wait, really? I made a joke about it.
Oh!
Yeah,
1 second.
It's kind of a huge deal.
I made a joke about it.
As he's watching it, let's.
I'm gonna be on
kind
YouTube
of
real
covers
quick.
multiple major things.
Okay.
Well,
wait a second.
I'll just say then. I think as a show.
This is why you watch with a friend.
Yeah.
I know. Well, yeah.
Don't do this alone, friends.
This was the longest episode, right?
Yeah, so far. Yeah.
Like
I don't know about the last one though.
No, but so I think that just like WandaVision, I don't want to get our expectations too high for stuff that's gonna pay off. I think we're gonna get a lot of good setup for things, like we got this episode, especially with the Contessa herself. I think a lot of good setup. I'm not sure if we're gonna get all this payoff in this last episode.
And my Justin Hammer theory is kind of
It became a lot weaker this week.
Yeah.
You had a Justin Hammer theory?
Yeah.
Oh my.
For Power Broker.
They're working so hard at this point.
I didn't tell you that. That's right.
They're dropping so many clues to make
Sharon.
us think that Sharon's the power broker that it makes me commit all the harder to the fact that she's not. I think there is a long con.
Yeah.
I think there is a long game. I think Nick Fury might be involved.
Yes.
And it would be so out of character. We talked about this last
Don't
week.
rule out the possibility of Sharon being a Skrull.
Anybody, potentially like literally anyone could be a Skrull.
Yeah.
And I have a particular
Well,
theory
that would be
about that.
overdoing it if everyone was a Skrull,
Again,
but
I'm saving my particular theory for a little later in the
a secret
convo.
invasion, some would say.
Well, exactly, because we know that's coming.
Coming 2022?
Actually, I'll just say this. So basically, I've read about this because Mike and I were not familiar with Val. We had not read those comics, and I quickly came home and immediately was like, she's obviously someone. The hair was a thing. Let me look her up. So I read about her, and apparently, like in Secret Invasion, she is kidnapped and replaced by a Skrull.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and I was like, could she be a Skrull?
Very likely contender to be a
lead
Skrull.
into Secret Invasion, which we know is happening. I don't have, tons of evidence beyond the fact that it happened in the comics, but it's one of those things where like we know that's coming. We know Secret Invasion is on the books.
Also, she doesn't seem like herself.
And she was doing something that seems bad. Like,
Yeah.
She seemed like she was nefarious and evil and trying to help, him after he's done all the bad things, and gives him the blank card, which, as Mike pointed out, was kind of a like, don't call us, we'll call you. It was just so sinister. And she's not supposed to be a sinister character, although, I mean, like, she's...
Well, I think
Because
we've been.
she infiltrates Hydra, right?
Well, then
Sounds
she
like Madam
becomes
Hydra,
she
but
becomes Madam Hydra.
Yeah.
I
but
believe.
she's also like the special friend of Nick Fury, and
Well,
they have that history. And
I believe we saw a character similar to her in Agents of Shield, correct, with the purple streak
Yeah,
in the
no,
hair.
you're
I
right.
believe
That's why I was confused, and that's
well,
why
yes,
Yeah.
Madam
confused
Hydra
Madam
was in
Hydra.
Agents
Yes,
of
there are two
Shield. She was
characters
like
who
a
are
whole.
Madam
She had a full
Hydra.
character arc,
and that's
she,
the first one, and this is the second one.
exactly. So
Are
I
they
mean,
rewriting that though, or is it a second
No,
one?
I think in the comics there was still two, and this
Okay.
the woman that Julia Louis-Dreyfus is playing is the second one.
Okay.
So I think it still works.
That makes
yeah,
sense.
because it was not Contessa Val de Fontaine in Agents of Shield,
Okay.
but they did have a Madam Hydra. But I was just wondering. I was like, it happened in the comics. We know that the Skrulls have already been teased with like Talos and his wife replacing Nick Fury and Maria Hill
Yeah.
at the end of Spider-Man. And like, I was like, is it possible she's a Skrull and that this is a lead in to the whole like Skrull world that we're going to see in Captain Marvel 2 potentially and in Secret Invasion? So I don't know.
If
Possibility.
I may, I think that sometimes with Marvel, that the Occam's razor, the most obvious thing, is sometimes the best. And I think if they did a Skrull stinger on both WandaVision and Falcon and Winter Soldier,
That's true.
I think that might be a little bit redundant.
That's true. I hadn't considered that.
I feel like this is the next big event that they're going to, so it would make sense. But at the same time, yeah, every project shouldn't be teasing
Right.
the Secret Invasion thing. Yeah.
So
That's
I just
true.
watched the end credit, and that was pretty huge. Thanks for
Yeah.
letting me know about that one, Johnny.
Yeah.
I,
Well,
I thought you watched it. I should have said so.
So you probably ought to like right away notice the parallel to Tony Stark hammering
Yeah.
away in the cave, right?
In a
Only as
cave,
Very
Yeah.
some
deliberate.
scraps.
And
I
it's
love
not
how he
just,
put his
I
metal
think
spark
it's
or
not just an
whatever in it, too.
homage. I think it's part of the fact that like we've made this comparison ourselves many times on this channel, but that when Tony in Civil War, when Tony went up against Steve, Tony was reacting out of emotion and impulse. He was making it personal rather than thinking about the greater good. And when you really think about it, this entire situation, the blip is because of Tony making things personal. He could have just set the clock back 5 years. He had those Infinity Stones. He could have just erased everything, but he chose to save his own daughter, even though he wasn't around to see her grow up. And because of that, literally the whole world is in chaos. Literally this incredible irredeemable collective trauma is happening because Tony couldn't get past his own personal feelings. So I'm pretty sure that that is like a very deliberate aspect of this visual and auditory reference they're making. Him in the dark garage hammering and soldering the metal with that same banging noise, that same hammering noise. It's because, like Tony, John Walker
Jenny
has
for
this
president.
problem.
That was someone just said that in
Yeah.
the chat.
Jenny for president. I don't want it. I don't want it.
So wait, somebody pointed
worry.
out how that John Walker doesn't have access to more vibranium, so that's just got to
Well-
be some scrap metal that he's using, right?
Do we think that Val provided him some stuff?
Oh,
I think she
dude, good call,
Very
Levi. Good
possible.
call.
Resources.
So like we're assuming that like maybe she's already called him now, and he didn't
That's
like
what I got.
other
Wait,
than
can I
his wife
establish
being
this?
kind of peeved by her presence because she's blatantly sat right between them. I loved that, and then
Yeah.
like turned her back to his wife and just like
Yeah,
Did
wife
her-
was
like,
so
Is she
freaked
the
out. I
power
feel very
broker?
bad for her.
I'm confused by this. Is she the power broker?
no,
No,
I
no,
no.
I don't
I
think
don't
she is
I don't
either.
think so. I think
Val is
she's
her
Still
yeah.
haven't gotten a reveal of that yet. It's just like
They're just
how?
making it they're making such a hard play to make us think Sharon is, and I really don't think Sharon
They're just
is.
making you wait for Justin
like-
Hammer. That's why.
I
Sharon-
whether it's Justin
I
Hammer
want Justin
or
Hammer
Arnim
so bad. It'd be
Zola
awesome.
or anybody, it's so I mean, I'm just gonna reiterate like
And we talked about Red Skull too. You haven't? I'd
Yeah,
love to see him.
don't rule him out, but
Yeah,
like
he could still
He's
be in that
space.
mix.
I think he's moved on from
like
Earth,
she
but-
has plenty of reasons to be embittered and to like take whatever she can get by sort of playing in this criminal underworld, but like doing things that are going to get other innocent people who are even more innocent than you killed.
Right.
I just find that so out of character for Sharon. She's
Unless she
not,
is
like-
playing 4D chess, which is what we're assuming.
I
She's
think
Well,
she
there's-
is
there's
playing
no
4D
doubt she's up to
chess.
something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
the
I
way
think
she
she
walks
definitely-
around Madripoor and those guards, like
Yes,
everyone,
Levi.
Everyone
I said
in the
that.
city, like looks
She's
like
clearly,
she's
like,
walking
a
by
power-
everyone.
she walked right past
player.
those bodyguard looking guys,
Yeah,
right? They didn't
so-
even stop her, and she's
didn't
like
even
walking
stop.
around like a barricade, like
Yeah.
Yeah,
just like okay, she's like high up there.
and
She's
if she's
Yeah.
got connections to Batroc, it implies or Batroc.
Yeah.
I was listening to a Grace
Batroc.
Randolph video. And she said Batroc, but it really implies that the job in the beginning that Falcon stopped had something to do with Sharon. right? Because she said, "I got shot
Yeah.
at that Algerian prison," and that
Right,
whole opening
right.
was in.
Yep.
between
They were
Algeria
trying to
and
like
Tunisia.
capture that soldier, right? And Sam freed him. So like, why would she want to capture that soldier?
Why was he trying to capture that guy?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that there's
Yeah,
that conversation on the phone connects her to the criminal activity in the beginning, and that
Yeah.
clearly was like not good, bad stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So
She's up to something, but I'm still holding out hope that it's 4D chess and that she's not just this like
But-
really evil character who's gotten a bunch
Yeah.
of civilians.
We know there's
Right.
another scene with
slaughtered.
them.
But
No, I
hold
agree.
on, I'm gonna interject and say that we've been talking a lot about gray areas with this show, and that like it's not just about good and bad. We've all had the specific lines of like it used to be just good and bad, but now everything is a gray area. So it's not just like, oh, Sharon's a bad guy now. We did acknowledge that it's been like at least 7 years since we saw her last. That's more than enough time for her to like change into to have completely different motives in life now, right? So
Yes, I agree.
it's
but
out of
again,
character, yes, but it
there are
doesn't.
still like lines within those gray areas because again, I have no issue with her like participating in this criminal underworld, trafficking with known criminals. Like honestly, I get why that would happen. I just think this like actual act of war. It's an act of war messing with this super serum. Plus, like taking Isaiah's blood, which with everything we know about him, bad, like multiple very sort of bad hegemonic racial connotations to that entire story, and then doing something which is guaranteed to get a bunch of like oppressed refugees killed like that. That's such a different level of magnitude from like partying with a bunch of criminals in the Madripoor underworld. And it just, you know, that is a line that sort of is inching its way out of the gray area into like, no dude, like it's bad, like don't get people killed.
Yeah, and then Jaden Kleberg pointed out that she's like Zemo. She uses what she thinks is a means to an end. I can agree with that, in that like the means to an end was like sort of like the topic of the last episode, and that like that goes back to the whole gray areas thing, and just it's not necessarily about her having like nefarious motives. It's just about like
Right.
a means to an end, and
Well,
living
maybe
in this
it's-
post-blip world, like everybody's got their own definition of good and bad now, and like somebody
Everyone's
just had
fighting to survive. Everyone's fighting to stay alive. There's a lot of crabs in a bucket.
going
on.
Lavelle said, "Will Carly die in the finale?" And I guessed yes, because then she would like, if she lives, then there's still a super person out there
Yeah.
that they'd have to
Well,
incorporate her in the future.
That got
as
me
like a-
thinking.
Be put in the
How-
raft. I don't know. I mean, I don't
How
even
much do we
she'll
think
die.
of this season gets wrapped up in the next episode, and how much do you think they leave for later things? Because it at first
sort
I
of
wanted to
missed-
say it's a very like contained, show. It's its own thing, but it kind of seems like there's some doors to open up some more things down the line. I
Oh,
mean,
for
I kind of
sure.
took it as Zemo is like not necessarily coming back in the next episode, but he's coming back later. Like, there's no way that's the last we see of Zemo.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, for sure
I
not.
sort of
Agreed,
talked about this while you
fully.
were watching the clip, Dylan. But yeah, I think that we're gonna have a stinger on the raft with Zemo and Ross. But in general, I don't think this show is gonna wrap up as much as we think. I think it's gonna
No.
set
I
up
mean,
a lot of
yeah.
stuff.
So do you think
I think
season 2 is possible then?
Well, I mean,
Maybe.
Kevin
Possible.
Feige already kind of teased that
Yeah,
this was one of the
Feige
shows
teased
that, it's
that
gonna
they
head
are
over to
into
season
it.
2.
It does almost seem like the show is like just starting, doesn't it?
Right.
does.
Well, because
Roy-
this
Roy in
episode
the
was
comments
Sam
so.
hasn't
is
even gotten
saying-
in the suit. Oh well.
Roy Smith in
spoilers,
the
I guess,
comments
but
is saying, "Do
the
we
suit-
know?" It's not confirmed yet, but Feige, we've talked about this before. Feige did give an interview
Yeah.
where he name checked Loki and Falcon and the Winter Soldier as shows
Yeah.
that were preconceived as open to second
Right.
seasons.
And
That
I
they're-
think a second season during the Secret Invasion, like a Falcon and the Winter Soldier during the
Mhm.
Secret Invasion, and those two characters dealing with another big MCU event, like this one's
Yeah.
post Blip, and then the next one will be the Skrull invasion. I think
Yeah, I
that's.
think it'd be the aftermath or
natural.
during. Yeah. for sure.
Because,
Somebody said Walker kills them all. Yeah, that would
I
be a fun
actually
ending.
don't
It's
think
gonna
that's
happen.
out of the question. Mike and I talked last
I'm
week.
sorry, I can't read your name. I don't read that language. I don't.
Two weeks back, whenever it was, I guess last week, Mike, we talked about the Anakin Skywalker killing the Tusken Raiders that kidnapped his mother, that killed his mother, and how he slaughtered an entire
Yeah.
village, and that's like the moment when he sort of irredeemably goes dark. And I think it's not at all impossible that he's literally just going to kill everybody. It's part of the thing with him is that there are really clear parallels that have been set up between him and basically every other character, including several characters that aren't even on this show, like Tony Stark or Steve Rogers. And as far as that goes, we've seen this scene with Sam, who sees all of his opponents or all of the other folks as human. He sees them as individuals. He even sympathizes with the larger cause that like the Flag Smashers are fighting for with the revolution, and he's able to compartmentalize like individual actions by people like Carly from the cause itself. But to John Walker, these are like disposable video game goons or stormtroopers to be like indiscriminately mown through. He himself even made that admission in the scene between him and Lamar, where he said they wouldn't have given us medals of honor if they knew what we really did over there.
Yeah.
Like they killed a bunch of civilians.
He's
in the
basically
Middle
admitting
East.
to have murdered people before.
Right.
Yeah.
And I
Well,
mean, in his
And
head,
it wasn't
partly
caught on
because-
video.
Knows how to do
Partly
it, yeah.
because he needs
Yeah.
to, you know, to compartmentalize, to be able to survive, to be able to live with himself. But he has dehumanized these people. He sees them as all the same, which is why he's able to rationalize killing Nico, even though Nico isn't the one who killed Lamar. He's able to rationalize it, or he's forcing himself to rationalize it, because like he needs to believe that like he's still righteous, he's still worthy. And
Okay,
I mean, it's like
Yeah.
you know, between him and Sam, that's the crucial difference that makes Sam worthy, is that he sees his enemies as human, and Walker does not.
Right.
Wasn't that sort of a product of his training though? Like, wasn't that sort of the point of the courthouse scene? Like, he feels
Oh,
this
for
way. He
sure.
is this way because this is what they made
Yeah,
him.
but that's also him passing the blame off onto them.
True,
Yeah,
true,
and
true,
two
true.
things
Right.
can simultaneously be true. Like it can be true that the
Yeah.
U.S. Army is a hypocritical and self-serving institution, that it builds people, uses them, and spits them out. But so that can be true, but at the same time, it can also be true that they didn't make him take the serum. He did that of his own free will because
Right.
because he couldn't control his own insecurities. And if you contrast that with Isaiah, like Isaiah was injected without his knowledge or consent. He was injected under false pretenses, and then he did everything he was supposed to do by the book. Apparently, his only misstep was doing the exact same thing Steve Rogers did, freeing a
Right,
bunch
right.
of POWs, his own team.
Right.
And then Steve is valorized and congratulated for it. And Isaiah is thrown in jail because of the inconvenience of his skin color, because he's an optics problem for them.
Well-
And when you contrast that with John, like John actually got off easy. He committed a literal war crime,
Yeah.
like a
when-
internationally defined
yeah,
war
he
crime
got off
on
very
camera.
easy.
And they didn't court-martial him. They didn't put him in jail. He remains a free white male
He
American.
doesn't get obviously the benefit. I think they said like the benefits.
He's not
and
getting,
stuff,
you
but
know, his pension, but
Right.
he's free.
he's
and
free.
Isaiah literally got
When-
locked
He's
up.
still
Isaiah,
like a
yeah.
free white male American, you know, living his life with his lovely, adoring wife and everything. And you contrast that with what has happened to Isaiah, and somehow John Walker still thinks that he's the injured party. He's the one who's
There's a
like
very clear.
And
the
they-
most oppressed.
And they made the point in the episode that the problem with his action was that it was on camera. Like that was
Right.
that
Yeah,
was the only
yeah.
Right.
problem. was
Like
that
I'm
it-
sure
Yeah,
they
so-
would have given him another
On
Medal
camera.
of Honor for that. If
I mean,
no
that
one
was the
gets
name of
seen.
the episode, right? Everyone.
Yeah,
But
the
it can-
whole world
again,
watching.
two
Yeah.
things can be
Which
true.
is
It can
from
be
a
true
line
that,
from Black
like,
Panther, right?
what?
Isn't that a line from Black Panther?
The whole
What?
world is watching.
The name of this episode.
Was
Truth?
it?
Oh, is it?
No, the episode before it. Or wait, was it Truth
the
or
whole
the
world is
world was
watching.
watching? Right. I
I
can.
just think it's really important we remember that the two things can be true at once. The army can be culpable, and also John Walker can be
Yeah, this
like
episode
acting
is
out
true.
and over
Yeah.
the line at the same time. Like just because the army might have reacted differently if it wasn't on camera doesn't mean that what he did is okay.
So wait,
right,
the,
right.
the question with John Walker for me is kind of still the same though. I know like Jenny, you and I were both like, oh well, he crossed a line when he lied to Lamar's family, but I did see a lot of people disagreed. I know you can it's something you can disagree on, but a lot of people felt that that is one of those lies that was necessary in order to comfort that family in that moment, and that, like if he really had done the right thing for himself and like told the truth, that may have like backfired negatively on them and had given like, so I mean you can look at it from multiple perspectives and be like, yeah, he's telling a lie that's serving himself, but he's also protecting them from pain that's unnecessary. So some
We-
people
we
view
talked
that as
about
like
this a bit,
it's
like,
not
I-
necessarily
you
a
know,
Well, do you
Like,
I
I
don't
don't think
think
he's lying
his
to himself.
motivation was to protect them from pain, though. That's the thing. They've dropped enough hints narratively that like it's on us to pick up the hints they're giving us.
yeah.
Like I think we even talked about this in our reaction, which is I said maybe it brings that family closure, but honestly, he's only protecting himself.
They did specifically show like we're assuming it's Lamar's little sister had like a really
Yeah,
like
she gave him
stinky
some
face.
side-eye.
She gave
knows
him
he's full
some.
of shit.
But
Yeah.
do we
Oh,
think
yeah.
he's still lying to
Specifically,
himself
again,
though?
You think he's lying to
every-
himself?
Yeah, like do we think he still believes that? Like do we think
Well,
that
I
for
think
his
there's two-
own sanity? Like and then that's something that's
Yeah, I
we have
think
to
it's
confront
that. I
him
think
with?
it's for his own it's a
He's
combination
trying to
of like
justify his actions.
he's rationalizing,
Yeah.
but again, it's also part of in order to rationalize, in order to keep his own sanity, he's dehumanizing them to the point where, like, well, it doesn't matter if it was the right person or not, they're all the same. He's dehumanizing these foreign nationals for the sake of his own sanity.
Yeah, but also some other people pointed out though that like in his mind, like Carly is dead because like he's coming for her and he wants to kill her. So like in his mind, like you said, they're all dead. Like so, like it doesn't make a difference.
But
like
as far as that conversation with Lamar's family, it's also like it's not an accident. They're juxtaposing that specifically with what Bucky is about to do. Bucky's going to do something at his own expense. It's going to cause him pain. He might lose his friend Yuri, but he's going to go and make an amend and tell the truth and apologize. And it's being set up deliberately as like that's the opposite of what John Walker just did with his best friend's family.
Speaking of Bucky, what did we? I don't want to take this off course because this is a great conversation, but I was just thinking about the scene after the fight when he takes the shield and just throws it next to Sam, and and it's like he keeps reinforcing like this is how it needs to be, like this is how it should be. Like Steve Rogers believed in you, and so do I. And it goes back to what he said: if he was wrong about you, then he was wrong about me. Yeah, and I just love the light coming down on Bucky, and he looks down at Sam and just throws the shield.
Awesome. Yeah, that was sad too though, because you're like, seeing that shield covered in blood over and over again like that, and then Sam like realizing finally like I do need to pick this shield up right now. Like,
right.
Yeah, so he has to realize that, but he's realizing that simultaneously where it's completely covered in blood, and it's such a sad moment seeing how obviously like he cares so much about it, and it was never about him like not wanting the shield or not having it was more about him, like what we've learned through the course of this whole series. It's like, and then later on in this episode we see Bucky basically finally be like, he says like I owe you an apology, like Steve and I didn't know. And that was also a significant scene too, people have pointed out, because it confirms that Bucky did know that Steve wasn't going to come back through time, that he was going to stay, and that when old man Steve shows up, like Bucky knew that was going to go down.
I rewatched that scene a couple of times. I felt like
the one in Endgame, you mean, or the
one in Falcon Winter Soldier. The way it's phrased, I couldn't tell if like he made it seem like he had prior knowledge, or they found out around the same time, like Steve had told him just before, and then he went to go get Sam the shield. Like I didn't know if it was like a joint decision. I don't know.
Because he says like Steve and I.
Before,
even in Endgame, it certainly seemed like that. I think that's what everyone was.
I think it was always Steve's decision. Like I don't think he asked Bucky like for like.
He told Bucky.
Yeah, he was like, "This is what I'm gonna do," and like, I don't know. That's like, I think that Sam has been such an awesome character in the show, just because he's been kind of seeing the world for what it is, especially through Isaiah, but he's still able to pick up the shield, I mean, he's had a lot of reluctance, but finally he's able to pick up the shield and make it his own, and he's gonna keep fighting for the, and like he even says like, I don't blame Isaiah for being like the way he is. Like if I was him, I'd probably do the same, but like I'm gonna take what I've learned from him, learn from my own experience, learn from the world, and I'm gonna keep fighting for what I believe in.
And it's that about him, it's that part of his character that makes him Captain America.
Exactly. They both had so much. I mean, Christina is commenting on the growth in their relationship, which we definitely saw, like finally calling each other partner at the end of that scene together, whatever. But it was also so much personal growth for both of them. Like Sam had to go back and see Isaiah and like put his discomfort with Isaiah's situation to rest.
He was freaking out before he got there. He
had to find out the truth. And I think the comment I made was that Sam has done his best to like live in an assimilated America, whereas like I think both Sam's family and Isaiah are more aware of like the actual dynamics at play. They live in the real America. They live in the like non-propaganda, unadulterated, like real America. And Sam has been trying to like fit into this star-spangled ideal, and I think he had to come face to face with like history before he can try to rewrite that history, or before he can try to improve upon that history. And that scene that you guys just referred to, where he said like, if I were him, I probably would feel the same way, but then his sister says like, you gotta choose your own path. Like Isaiah's his own person, and you're your own person, and you've got to forge your own way. Like he believes that in this ideal that we're all humans living on this planet together, and that everybody is redeemable. And it's not just it's not like taking care of myself at the expense of someone else, or it's not like I'm going to look after me and mine. It's that humanity is worth fighting for, that the world is worth fighting for. And that's why he's the right Captain America, or not that he's the right America, but that he's the right hero for this world. Exactly. For the globalized world, he's the right avatar for
And
that.
Yeah.
a few notes about that scene. One, I think it's really powerful that Sam as a guidance counselor sort of figure, as someone who deals with soldiers' trauma all the time, being faced with like Elijah's trauma, because he is used to dealing with like these intense stories, and that how that affected him. That was really good. Um, but also, and jumps later on, but I do wish that I think the implication is there in the episode, but I do wish we got more of Sam with his nephews and the shield. Like we see Bucky see them playing with the shield, and that was a
Yeah,
really
that was very
powerful,
cool.
sort of
Yeah.
like it presents Elijah's side, and then it presents like this new generation of like these kids are totally untouched by that right now, and they still see themselves in
That's
this
what Sam's
symbol.
fighting for. Yeah.
It's what he's fighting for. But I wish Sam had more of an interaction with that, not Bucky.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad
I
that scene
agree.
was in.
There was that one brief little moment after Sam was done like practicing with the
Yeah, when he
shield,
was
where he
tracing
like
it.
came up and like
Yeah.
touched it. Yeah, and that
And
it
they
was a
call
brief
Uncle
moment,
Sam
but it
over.
was very much like, oh, like next
Yeah,
generation.
yeah,
Like,
no, I really like that. But and then one other thing is, and this is probably going to start a tangent, but do we think that the woman who saved Elijah was Peggy Carter?
No, yes, I heard that, and I thought that was a pretty cool. You mean Isaiah? You keep saying Elijah.
Isaiah. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
Isaiah.
So he mentioned that there was a nurse,
Elijah is his grandson.
a
right?
nurse that took
Yeah.
pity on
Right,
him.
yeah.
He said, and then like
Elijah is
faked
his
some.
grandson.
Yeah, Peggy's not a
Yeah.
nurse.
His
I feel like
grandson
it
is.
might have just
Okay,
been some,
okay. I knew there was.
unless she was like in deep cover or something. But I feel like it's just too early to say. Like I don't have enough information beyond wishful thinking.
Yeah,
But
I don't think
that's
there's a
not
need.
about-
I don't think there's really a need to tie that in either,
Yeah.
because
Does
like
that-
the
does that
scene
add
is so
anything?
powerful on standing alone on its own that like, yeah, you don't need
Oh,
to.
and I was just thinking, for those who wanted old Steve to be in the show, I think they pretty much confirmed that.
Yeah, I think that
he's gone.
undercuts Sam's growth
Growth
as
and-
like
Right.
accepting his new role.
I mean, and Sam said like
Sam said
Steve is
he's gone.
He's
Steve
gone.
is
So
I
take
think
that as you
he's-
will. He could still be on the moon. That could mean he's just
Yeah, he's
gone.
hanging out with Nick Fury
Yeah.
in space.
Yeah.
I'm saying
Right,
for those
I
who like
mean-
wanted a scene between Sam and
Yeah, was it Far From Home when you got that scene of
Yes,
Nick Fury
Nick
like
Fury.
in his pajamas, like making
In
coffee
space.
or whatever?
Moon
Yeah, yeah.
on the base,
But
yeah.
I think the whole
Cool.
point, as much as like we all love Steve Rogers and everybody, including Zemo, is like Steve's the exception to every rule. The whole point that is being made, that line Carly had where she said it's a symbol that belongs to another time, or that shield
Bygone
that's an
era, yeah.
outdated bygone era was what she said. And that's literally the point, is that the comics themselves were propaganda when they came out. This idea that like America was perfect and the savior of the world, it's this World War II era conversation that frankly was like a whitewashed image to begin with and is no longer relevant. And the whole point that's being made is that if we're going to continue having like Captain America, we have to adapt that image.
Yeah,
for a
specifically her
globalized
point
world.
is it represents everyone who got left out.
Yes,
That's-
exactly.
yeah.
The people who have been forgotten by history, that don't get written into the history books, but now like we have cameras on us everywhere. We can see the downtrodden, we can see the marginalized. And the whole point is that like we need a Captain America that represents the whole world, not just some pristine whitewashed vision of America.
So wait, do you guys remember last week when I said like it would be nice if we saw like at the end like an Isaiah Bradley like exhibit in the Captain America exhibit
Mhm,
in
yeah.
the
That'd be
spec-
cool.
I really
to have,
hope
like,
so.
'cause
I
they
don't think we
added
get
the-
that though. I don't think
And I
we get
really
that.
want
don't
Don
think we will?
Cheadle to come
No,
back
I was actually
because-
gonna say like I think Isaiah Bradley made it kind of clear that he
He made very
doesn't
clear
he
wants
want
to be
it.
dead.
Yeah,
Like,
he
wants to
doesn't-
be
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah.
So like
right.
in the same light of like Sam being able to make his own history and not needing to live by what happened to Isaiah, like Isaiah can decide for himself.
Well,
Like
wonder
I
if
don't
we'll have
want the
another scene
recognition.
Where Sam inspires Isaiah, and then we see maybe an exhibit. I wonder.
I
if
would,
Yeah.
I mean,
one more
just
scene
me
with Isaiah.
personally, I want to see like the Sam Isaiah Rhodey scene, because as we all
Yeah.
know on this channel, like Don Cheadle's my favorite person ever. He
Yes,
just like
Don
makes me
Cheadle.
feel better. But
We love
it
Don.
could go either way. It could be like, let the man alone. He's been through enough. Don't drag him back to this, world. Or it could be like there's reparation, there's restitution,
Well-
and finally recognizing his service. It could go either way.
I'm really excited to see what this does for his grandson when we do get into the
Yeah,
Patriot. Because
that is Elijah. I'm sorry, that's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
his
yeah.
name.
Mhm.
That's Elijah. And so with that, right, we're getting a lot of team setups, right? Are we getting a setup for Young Avengers, Thunderbolts, and Dark Avengers?
Mm-hmm.
True. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I just want to
Lot
see
of-
how
lot of teams
he.
coming,
I
yeah.
mean, it's gonna be a while till we get Patriot, I think, or a little bit. But I really hope they carry on the Isaiah and Sam and like how they've inspired him and stuff like that. Because I mean, we don't get a lot of characterization of him, but like, I don't know. Right now, he's just kind of like a teenage boy,
We also just pause just to recognize like the power of Carl Lumley's acting in this scene.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah.
I hope he wins an Emmy for guest appearance. Honestly, like that scene, we were both crying. I'm sure a lot
Yeah,
of you were
you're
crying.
talking about a character that you
Ooh,
had
that man can
you had
act.
like a total of like maybe like 90 seconds worth of him in a previous episode, and then like a little bit, and then like you're like already crying for a character you barely know just because of the context, the historical, like the real world historical context of it all. He's like specifically mentioning tetanus, which is like exactly what they were doing in Tuskegee, right? So it was
Yes.
they're not
And there
even
was
like it's not
another-
even like
there
a
was
parallel.
moment
It's like a
where he made
direct.
a reference, I think, to the Tuskegee Airmen, which is not related to
Yeah, the
Tuskegee
332.
Syphilis
He
study.
said
The
he's
332,
mentioned.
the
Yeah.
Red Tails. It was an all-black Air Force squadron. That he used to be
Lucasfilm.
inspired by that, and it was similar. Honestly, there was like this little parallel to Nico when Nico said, "I used to admire Captain America, but now I realize it's not all good and bad. It's not all black and white." And there's this thing where Isaiah's like, "I used to admire that, and then I saw how the U.S. Army really works, kind of." And
What is the timeline on Isaiah's? It's the Korean War, right? Because that's when he
yeah,
fought.
50, yeah.
Like so there wasn't
Like just after Steve Rogers
it's
was
just
created.
after he.
So like
Well,
1952, I think, around then.
He met Bucky
51,
in
50,
51
yeah, 51, 52, yeah.
in
Okay,
Korea.
well, yeah, and I'm just trying
Oh,
to.
I have
like, make
actually have a question. That scar that he showed, was that from the experiments or was that
Yeah,
from
I think
Bucky?
Yeah, that's from them testing
My
on him.
impression
I
is
wasn't
because
sure
they
if
were
that was-
testing him while he was in
Okay.
prison and
Yeah.
also extracting his blood
Yeah.
constantly.
I just wanted to make it clear that Steve pre-ice never existed at the same time as post-serum Isaiah.
No, I don't think.
Yeah,
so.
no, that they never would have had the
They
opportunity
didn't
to meet.
specify in the comics. I think that Isaiah came first, and
In the comics, yes, Isaiah did come first.
The,
Okay, yeah.
the
I don't think in the
supposition, which I think also makes sense here, is that they, just like the Tuskegee syphilis study, that they tested this serum on a bunch of black lab rats who they saw as disposable.
Oh,
Yeah,
wait,
no,
actually,
rather-
yeah. So wait a minute. All
That
rather
was
than
clear.
injecting it into the nice white boy first. I think the implication is that they like tested it on
Tested
these
it, yeah.
on these people that they saw as less than human.
Well,
and
didn't
then
they say
gave
though
it
that
to
it was
Steve Rogers.
after I can't remember, it was Stanley Tucci's character after he died, but they couldn't recreate it and wasn't, or maybe this exposition was from the doctor in Madripoor. His name is escaping me right now. But I
Nagel.
thought
Nagel, Dr.
Thank you.
Nagel.
Nagel, yeah.
I thought there was some exposition earlier in the season about how after he died, there was a lot of efforts to try to recreate it, and then that's why they did the experiments, and because they couldn't get the serum again. Because what you're saying, Jenny, sounds right, but I just in the time I'm just trying to figure
They
out
had
the
to start
timeline.
from scratch. Yeah, they had to start from scratch.
Yeah.
Because a
And
lot
so,
of
yeah,
people,
yes.
a lot of people are talking about like Isaiah during World War II in like discussions, and I'm like, I don't think that happened.
No.
Yeah, I don't think.
No, yeah.
I don't think he
That
was
after.
fighting at the
Yeah.
same time.
Oh no, no. It was
But
before.
whether or not like the injection, I don't think we know definitively within the MCU whether they were injected before World War II and then held in reserve or whether it came later. But regardless, I think the implication is that like Steve Rogers was one of a kind, not only sort of physically, but also like his nature, his personality, his character, and that that the rest of these folks, this like handful of people that Isaiah mentions that were experimented on were literally being treated like lab rats. They had great care with Steve and with the way they treated his transformation, whereas they just sort of treated Isaiah and all of his compatriots as animals,
Yeah.
as literally as lab rats, as damaged disposable goods. And because we know again that there's this real world parallel, we keep mentioning Tuskegee syphilis study because it's the famous one, but this is not the only time that the US government under false pretenses has conducted medical experimentation on Black and brown populations. They were sterilizing women in migrant camps this past year.
Yeah.
So like this is something with like a very deep-seated history in America, and it's the whole history that we're
It's
meant to
nothing
get
new, that's
from
for
that.
sure.
It's
Yeah.
nothing new,
Yeah.
and it's something very old, and it's just that,
It's so believable for this MCU
Oh.
world too that they would do this to Isaiah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's like I can totally see that being a real story if there was super
Yeah.
soldier serum.
And speaking of serum, so there was a theory like when Carly had the fanny pack of serum, people pointed out that it looked like, because there were 20 total vials, 8 were taken, and there were only like I remember someone was saying that there was 5 missing from the fanny pack, and I can't remember now
Oh.
if that plot line is going to pick up, or if the camera angle just didn't show enough of the fanny pack to show that all the vials are there. Because that was definitely something. She opens it at like at the cemetery, and the numbers don't add up from what you see in the shot. So
Right now,
do you
it
think like
seems to-
Sam gets it? Do you think Sam gets the serum?
I
No,
don't think he's
because
gonna take it.
his
I don't think so
Wakanda
either.
suit. Yeah, his suit is
Yeah,
gonna
I don't think so either.
superpower him. Yeah.
His
Also,
new
I'm
fancy
so
suit
excited
they
for that
didn't
suit.
let us
Getting
see.
a suit from Wakanda.
He's
It's
gonna get a
interesting.
vibranium Falcon suit, basically, with a
Because-
Captain
or
America
vibranium
suit. Yeah.
Captain America suit, or just
It-
a
it-
Sam suit, his unique suit for the unique character. he's
Also, I was just
playing,
thinking
right?
Torres, new Falcon.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
He
Well, so
always
that's the
like
thing.
it keeps
She
showing him
said-
having like obsession with trying to fix the
Fix
Yeah.
the suit.
wings.
yeah.
It so here's
We
his
got a lot
opportunity.
of progressions. We got like John Walker with that shield scene at the end becoming U.S. agent because now he's gonna have his own Walmart version shield. We got the name drop of White Wolf. Io sort of said, "All right,
I know,
White
yeah, the
Wolf."
White Wolf
So
thing
we got the
again.
White
Yeah.
Wolf
last
name
week.
drop.
Yeah.
We
I think
got,
that
like,
further
Torres
confirms
being
that Bucky is
Falcon.
gonna appear in Black Panther moving forward.
Well,
I
didn't he
agree.
say something like "I'm not"? Didn't they say like "Don't come back to Wakanda" or something?
Yeah,
or
no,
did
he
I
said
misinterpret that?
she said stay scarce. I thought.
Yes,
she was,
yeah,
She was
yeah.
like
Oh.
stay away.
Oh.
Yeah, he-
Okay.
Oh well,
Right.
that does. No, I still believe that means he's gonna like part of his story is gonna be like getting back in
that-
there.
no,
Right,
I,
no, it could
I agree
still
with
happen.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they have a
Yeah.
Wakanda show too, so I don't know what exactly that's gonna be about, but wouldn't be surprised.
Especially since Bucky and Io now apparently like are like an item according to the internet and what we
Well,
Yeah,
we don't
that's
know that.
so
I mean,
simple.
they're on
That's
Rocky
so
spiritually
simple.
they're spiritually an
That's
item.
such a-
They're certainly
yeah,
good friends.
spiritually, sure, but that
Yeah.
reduces it to such a like tawdry
Yeah,
level.
Besides all of the Sam's sister Sarah, people are shipping her and Bucky
Oh,
now
I
too
know.
because
I
of
like
that.
That was awesome.
That was funny.
That was played
great.
for laughs, though. I feel
Yeah,
like that's
yeah.
not a future plot line. That was played for laughs and to make Sam uncomfortable, and it
Yeah.
worked. It was funny.
Yeah.
She was like, "Hey," and then Sam
Well,
was
we
like,
have
"Don't
one episode
do
left,
that.
Jenny.
Don't do
So you
that."
know what?
Actually, so
I'm
like
gonna
this
wait on that, 'cause
this I'm glad that we're talking about Bucky now because this like reminds me about how like because in the first episode Bucky was on a date with that girl that like Yuri set up and like some people were asking earlier about
We're gonna see
obviously
that guy.
like we're gonna go back and see Yuri in the next episode. We have to, right? It's
Have to.
that's like
yeah.
That's
We-
what he's
we
on
wanna
the way
s-
to
I
do to
imagine-
make his amend.
I imagine that'll be the last thing we see of Bucky. I think it'll be him.
you think so?
doing that. Yeah.
Do you think they'll bring that bartender back into it and he'll like get to like
No.
It won't
I
be
mean,
the
she-
bartender. It'll just be with the
yeah,
old
just
man.
the old man.
Yeah,
don't
again, I
I
think
don't-
the bartender was used to make a point, which was that
Yeah.
Okay,
we've
yeah.
talked about this like every single week, but that Bucky is this man out of time. He's
Yeah.
incapable of like living like.
So wait, what about his psychologist? That was such an awesome
Oh,
like
I love Amy Aquino.
are we
I
going to
love
see
her.
him
Yeah,
finally
yeah.
get to be like show him her his improvements?
I
Maybe.
Since-
maybe would have one more scene
No.
with that. and-
No, you leave no. Okay.
Well, I
don't
just
think
think
so?
just because the episode next week is gonna start in the heat of it. Like the GRC thing is going down.
Yeah, you're right,
Buck-
yeah.
Bucky's
Yeah,
got to
yeah.
get to New York. Everyone's gonna get to New
Yeah.
York. It's gonna be an action-packed finale.
Yeah.
I just think that because this week was pretty.
I'm like kind of
saying
I'm
that
thinking
would be
about how
towards the
like
end of the episode, if anything.
a lot of the real world parallels that we keep pointing out that like now this GRC thing is going to happen in the next episode and there's going to be an immediate parallel to like the storming of the Capitol in the US, right?
Yeah.
And people are going to like I don't think that like so many of these real world events were like purposefully
Yeah,
like
what are you saying?
arranged
Marvel-
to be
Marvel
in this
predicted
show.
Yeah,
or-
It
Yeah,
just
it's-
proves that like there's nothing new under the sun. Like when they were filming this, they couldn't possibly have known this.
And they even took out like a
the
virus
schedule.
subplot
Is that
with the
true?
flag freshers, right?
Is that true? I saw that too. I saw Josh
the
from
whole
the Denim
virus
Nerds tweet
thing.
about
I mean,
that. But is that
There was
real?
the truck, and there was all those. there
The
Oh,
virus,
true. Yeah,
the virus plot
vaccines.
that they
Right.
they
I think
had
there
to
was.
yeah.
It would make
Yeah.
sense. There was, yeah. 'Cause the crates
Unless
and
you
all
believe
that.
it's all controlled, maybe they.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
what's
Where would
crazy-
they
Marvel has
have?
a deal with the
Where would
We
government.
that
could
have
go down
gone,
more
though?
theories, just real world.
What's
theories.
crazy amazing is that like we talked about how there are all these plot lines that have to be tied up, and they dealt with a few of them in this episode. Like they dealt with Wakanda and Zemo for now. It's not the last we'll see of either of them, but for now,
No.
like they wrapped it up with a pretty little bow for us. They, dealt with Sarah and the situation with the boat.
Yeah.
They took care of her and she can look after herself now. Like they dealt with a few plot lines, but then they also gave us like multiple new plot lines that now also like bringing in
I think they just that
Val
just goes into movies and the
Yeah.
future
no,
shows.
yes, some of those will definitely carry
Wait,
over.
plus, hold on a second. Let me interject. Plus, Val's character was supposedly supposed to be like part of Black Widow, right? And which
Yes.
now has been moved into a later
yeah,
date.
I had a question about that.
So some
though.
people think that was supposed to be more of like people knew who she was already at that point
how, like,
because of.
into leak community is this specific?
Well, it depends. Are you trying to drop a leak right now?
No,
like
no,
a,
not a new one. I'm just saying, like, are we aware of like
Yeah, I
entirely.
like.
Yes, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
well, just like so, right? Florence Pugh is supposed to be in this show, and do we
Oh,
think
really?
that shot got cut because Black Widow was
Yeah.
supposed to come out first, and then she was
Yeah.
supposed to appear in this.
Black
Yeah.
Widow is like waiting for Godot at this point. Like, is it ever going to come out? We don't know. They've
Well,
delayed
I
it like
mentioned to
17
you guys
times.
before that she's gonna be in or I think she's gonna be in Hawkeye. Yeah, Hawkeye. She's gonna
Florence,
be in
because
Hawkeye, too,
Florence
so.
Pugh is her character is going to be part of the Thunderbolt team, I think, with Zemo.
Yeah.
Oh, you thinking she's gonna be in
And-
the Thunderbolts?
Well, I don't know. I don't see
Oh.
what other
That's
team
what
she
the
goes
leak
with.
is.
I thought actually I wanted.
Devontae,
Oh.
are you referring to Black Widow? That there was a virus storyline in Black Widow that got reshot?
No,
I
in Falcon and
in
Winter
Falcon
Soldier.
and Winter
Falcon
Soldier.
and Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
Okay, that they were
Yeah.
They
I
reshooting.
just-
reshot that stuff.
I just don't see where that goes, like in the story, like where that was cut from.
Unless they really.
I know
wanna
they
get on the
replaced it. No,
nose.
they replaced it with the whole like Carly talking to Nico in the graveyard stuff, like where they're just kind of
The serum?
That-
Wait,
But
so
that was
the
such a
serum
great
stuff?
scene. I'm so glad we
It
got
or
was
it.
not or not just the graveyard, but like there've been a lot of just sort of like random like flag smasher scenes that
Yeah.
weren't
So you're
necessarily.
saying there wasn't gonna
David
be a
Yao
serum
says they're
in
very
this
hollow.
originally?
I have to disagree. I think we've gotten so much context with the Flag Smashers, and again, look at what is happening at the southern border of the US right now, let alone like all over the rest of the world. Like refugee crises are real. We're also dealing with climate refugees, which is going to become an increasing thing. Like people whose literal island nations disappear and are going to be
Right.
nationless refugees. This isn't like if it's when.
Kiribati, right?
Kiribati is flooding.
It's gonna be like the
there
first
for the
nation to
rest of
just disappear off the
and
map.
it's not the only
Yeah.
one. It's going to be the first one, but it's not going to be the only one. So this idea of like nationless refugees who have done nothing wrong and are suddenly being treated as like a problem to be dealt with rather than as humans who have lost everything.
Yeah.
This is
And that-
and I mean,
that-
look at the news this week with like the announcement about migrant caps in America. This is like very pressing and very relevant. And the fact that like that's what the Flag Smashers are fighting for. And there was this we've had a conversation again many weeks in a row about allocation of resources and about how there's enough for everybody. It's not that there's not enough, it's that too few people have too many of the resources for themselves. And so there's this very real and very righteous humanitarian cause that the Flag Smashers are fighting for. I think the problem for Carly specifically is that she, like John Walker, like Tony Stark, she's making it personal. She's making decisions for the team at this point without consulting the team. So she blew up that
Yeah, I mean,
warehouse.
she blew up
It's the
she
Zemo
blew up
thesis.
It's
coming
yeah,
into-
Yeah, well, it is. It
Right.
is. I mean, it's one of those things that like
Right.
Bucky proved his thesis wrong, but Carly's kind of proving it right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Which is
she-
actually kind of an interesting side point I wanted to make, which was that Zemo being defeated essentially by Bucky because Bucky proved him wrong. That's like Zemo losing in battle. It's
Yeah.
good. It's the same
Yeah.
thing. So wait, is
Totally.
psychologically is Zemo gonna like need to like come up with a new philosophy now? Is he gonna become a new character because or is he gonna continue denying? Because I mean that scene was really played to make it show like Daniel Bruhl, like another great actor.
So good.
But like where you could see the look on his face where he knew that he lost. Like he was prepared to die. He was prepared to get shot in the face, and then like that proves him right. But he didn't get shot, and then he realized that he lost. He realized
think-
that
That was
So-
a beautiful
Am I
like
the only one
moment
who's
of
kind of
like
confused why the Wakandans decided to bring him to the raft? I thought, I mean, even back in Civil War, I thought the Wakandans wanted to bring.
it's just a matter of it being
Huge-
maximum
yes,
security,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
Yeah. It's just the fact
It's like he just
Yeah,
escaped
yeah,
from.
so
It's
in
impenetrable.
prison.
Basically.
Okay, so wait, hold on a minute.
Impenetrable.
Literally, Bucky like threw a piece of paper on a table and like started a prison riot, and Zemo escaped by himself. So that's
Yeah.
clearly like not
Well, I'm
enough
saying the whole thing
security.
back in Civil War was Wakanda wanted Zemo, but
we
Zemo
also
wasn't allowed.
that's also where we saw the raft. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
it's true.
the prison from
Yeah,
Civil War. It
raft.
also figured very
Yeah.
prominently in the second season of Jessica Jones. So
Right,
we've seen it
right.
before, but
Like,
it's-
is there even
I'm just saying, I
room for
thought-
Zemo to become a good guy now in the future because of?
Anti-hero.
I
Thunderbolt.
think
Yeah.
maybe a Loki.
Yeah.
Loki. Type.
yeah, we've said this again and again that he's a
Yeah.
Loki-like character. He teams up with people
Definitely.
out of convenience, but he's also
Yeah.
always got his own agenda, his own
Yes.
end game, and that's what makes him so fun is because he exists in this place of like moral ambivalence. Like he
Right.
has good reasons for being the way he is. He started with like losing his family unjustly in the middle of somebody else's war, but he's done some really shitty things along the way, and like Loki, you sort of love to hate him, and Danielle Bruhl is having so much. I've never seen him I've seen him in a million things. I'm a big fan of his, but I've never seen him have like this much fun with a character and just like let it rip. And
He's pretty good in Inglourious Bastards.
He's great.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
great.
Hey guys, I just want to point out that we passed 50 concurrent viewers on the live for the first time. First time we've done that. Yep.
Big episode.
Yeah,
going
dude.
back to the
Honorary viewers.
Yes.
I'm never gonna let that one down.
No.
Going back to what the person said about the Flag Smashers being shallow, yeah, I actually really disagree. Just because, like, one, I feel like they're a pretty realistic take on like what would be happening, what is essentially happening, but they're a realistic, sympathetic take, and perfect for Sam's character actually, just because like it's all about him being pulled each way and trying to find his way in the center of this, and the Flag Smashers I think are the perfect entity for his character.
I understand that person though. I understand that point of view because obviously I think we can all agree that probably Sam is the deepest character right now in the show, probably the most.
Well, Sam does understand
fleshed
that
out.
perspective too.
Exactly, and I'm saying they serve him really well.
Yeah.
But like, I can see the perspective of especially our villains, like you got Carly and John Walker. They both start in a quote unquote relatable place. I think we all knew where they were going, and then they take like pretty. They do not great things, and we're like, okay. And so I think the Flag Smashers as an idea is very well fleshed out, but maybe Carly as a character, her sort of switch, because in this episode, because the writers really have to make it clear, because this still is a Marvel show about like good guys, bad guys, despite the theme of gray, that Carly is a criminal now. She's like, well, they call us criminals, so we're criminals now, and we're working with.
And that's really solidified.
But once again,
she's
she's making those decisions on her own. Like first blowing up the building.
Exactly. I'm saying specifically Carly, not the Flag Smashers.
Unknown terrorist. Like her friends, her colleagues were like, he's a terrorist.
Yeah.
He's a criminal, and she's like, so are we. But she's making decisions that are not only legally implying the rest of them, but like ideologically have.
Yeah. But that's probably a good reason for why she's gonna end up dying, not because she's a bad person, but she's gonna
die.
I mean, who knows?
You didn't think Battlestar was gonna die either, John. So
Battlestar got murked, man.
He got murked. Yeah, he got bodied.
I kind of agree with what Lavelle is saying. Is that there has to be some like we have to revisit this Sam Carly plot because part of what's happening right now.
I think we'll get this episode.
She's brought in Batroc so that the two of them can effectively go on a personal revenge mission against Sam. Sam, of all people, who is not her enemy. And it's kind of like John Walker's kind of doing the same thing. Like he himself went after Sam and tried to kill him. And I'm like, dude, Sam is not any of your enemy. He wants you all to get along and like live long, happy lives. And the fact that this like personal revenge mission is entering it while the rest of the Flag Smashers are still like, no, this is about refugees and about a humanitarian crisis. And, I didn't sign up for this. It's about ego. It's now become this like battle of egos between Carly and John Walker. That Sam is going to have to be like the peacekeeper to solve. Sam is going to have to like solve this political crisis.
Carly has to be. She has to be Agatha because it would only prove Zemo right, and sort of if she is killed by our heroes or by John Walker. I think if they let her die, then it sort of proves.
Yeah.
Right, and it proves.
Ooh, wait, that's actually interesting because that means that could play as a good opportunity for John Walker's character too. Like if he's given the opportunity to kill Carly, that could be his moment of like if he decides not to, where he has the opportunity to change.
I think he's full gone.
You think it's just like he's gone and that's that now?
I think it's
any
gonna be
point of return right now.
I want to point out Devontae Smith in the chat. Sorry, John, for cutting you off.
No, go ahead. You're good.
Yeah, Devontae, our good friend Devontae's here every week.
Devontae's always here.
They've been saying it. They've been saying it the whole time, but they think that Carly will become a nomad-like character, of like a super soldier without borders sort of deal, like a vigilante. I pointed out that I thought that Cap was that character in Infinity War. They sort of alluded to that when he was Nomad.
Yeah.
But they made the point that was never named. So I just wanted to point that out because they've been saying.
So
yeah, I don't think there will be like a mantle of Nomad, but I mean like that similar type of character.
Anyway, I think her Carly, meaning getting Agatha, just sort of being defeated, but put on the back stage for a while.
Yeah.
I think that's I
really think that's a lovely like subtle point because it's not just about like Zemo and his ideology. It's also about this conversation that she and Sam had last week that he really does believe everyone is redeemable and everyone is worth fighting for.
That's why I
That's
don't
what
think
he's
she's gonna
like
die.
devoted himself to. So I actually,
Right.
Levi, I think it's like a really
So if she doesn't die, then like 100% we're gonna need to see more from her in the future. Like not just because of the character, but the
I mean, like-
actress. Is it Erin Kellyman? Is her
Erin
name?
Aaron
Kellyman.
Kellyman.
Yeah, she's
So
obviously like
interesting. I love her.
fascinating.
Awesome, yeah.
Like, and
Give me
she was
more
Enfys Nest too.
Nest.
Enfys
More
Nest.
Yeah, let's
content.
Which
give
is
Yeah.
in a
give it
lot
to
of
us.
ways
Give us
like
a
a
whole
very
series,
similar
man.
character.
Very similar
you know?
character. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Yeah,
she's obviously
honestly.
been
I can see her
typecast,
being
but
put in the raft, or just like I'm thinking like similar to. I know it's kind of weird. Stuff, but, like,
actually, you know what?
Ghost-
Good call,
Ghost
because if
in
she
Ant-Man
ends
and the
up with
Wasp, like, she
Zemo,
kinda
if they
runs
end up
away.
together, she
Similar
could
to
become
that.
another tool in his like little toolbox of
And
like,
she's
you
Which would
know,
go against
22.
Zemo's philosophy,
She's
though.
22 years old. She is so young. So she
Yeah,
may be
yeah.
Yeah.
typecast, but I think she's got a long.
She's
Yeah,
so
I know.
interesting. She's such an
Yeah,
interesting
she's great.
performer. I really like her.
Um,
There also might be an aspect of community accountability. It's something we encountered in this episode where we saw like Sam's sister, Sarah, is in trouble with the boat and the debt and all of that. The bank won't give her a loan because they're racist. And they say, like, do people in the community still owe anything to mom and dad? And it's like the community that comes together and, makes it happen. And like that's
Yeah, there's a
that's
bunch of
family,
people.
that's community. And it
Yeah.
was really sort of paralleled with this idea of like the GRC being the one watchdog in charge of all the resources. We know from that warehouse that got blown up that they're hoarding supplies, they're hoarding resources when people are starving right outside because it's like this power
yeah.
Do we think
stratus.
that's just like bureaucratic incompetence? Or do
Well,
we think
no,
there's
but
something
remember
more
that
going on
that
with
scene
it?
at the very
It's
end.
incompetence, but it's also like evil in its
So
own
wait,
way.
hold on.
Like, do you
Also-
think there's another motive with the GRC? Is there
No, wait, hold on. Let me ask a question. In that
Probably.
GRC scene at the end, when they started to start the raid on the GRC, it really looked like that one guy was like sort of like the head, because he kept being like, "Oh, I could just make a call right now and we could be rid of these people."
Yeah,
and
yeah.
even though like
Wait, which
everyone else
guy?
was like
Sorry?
disagreeing with him,
Yeah, mentioned a
senator.
little bit further up in the
Oh.
comments.
it, as in like naturally, it seemed like the one guy with like the idiot take was like the one with the most power, like the way it always is. Yeah.
David Yao pointed out a little bit further up, if you scroll up in the comments, that apparently there was originally a plot line where the GRC this may have been the virus subplot that was replaced because of the
Right.
timing, but apparently there was some plot line where the GRC intentionally infected the refugee camp to cull their numbers.
Yeah, yeah.
Which sounds very realistic to me,
Yeah.
and it's the kind of thing that we
Or
go,
to
"Oh,
justify
we're
removing
like
them.
America,
Yeah.
we never do that, but we do that shit all the time."
Yeah.
And I mean, that sounds like I wish we had gotten that plot line because it would make it a lot clearer. I mean, I don't wish we had a virus plot line. I don't frankly ever need to see a virus plot line from anybody. Please, writers, don't do that. But
Oh,
it would
yeah.
definitely have made like it very clear what the agenda and priorities of the GRC are, because we said right off the bat, Mike, like when we first saw that crazy little sort of WandaVision commercial with like the piano music, we were like, oh, that's creepy, they're definitely up to no good. But I mean, it's just this idea that there's this like
footage.
centralized power that holds the purse strings, that controls other resources, and they're not allocating them equitably. And so it's this community versus bureaucracy, like community gets it done. And so I'm wondering, bringing that full circle, I wonder if there's like an aspect of community accountability for Carly. Like, does she have to answer to her own people, to the rest of the flag smashers who are still fighting for the cause and not for their own egos? Because that actually would be very interesting.
I don't think Carly has gone too radical with. I mean, like, well, I guess she has.
No, I think
she's
she has.
she's gone over the edge.
I just thought about because she blew up the.
What do we think is going to happen with Batroc? Is he like, because he was like, I'm just here to kill Falcon, like, and that's his.
Yeah.
I have some theories though.
But yeah, some people have been like, what if he's also like playing 4D chess, like, and he could be
maybe. Well, I think,
like a last second like good guy reveal because or.
No, hold on. Before I get to that, hold on. David Yao points out in the chat that that virus plotline sounds too close to like some people's actual conspiracy theories.
Yes, yeah.
I feel like
that would cause so many problems.
Cutting it out, yeah, that would cause so many problems.
Yeah, good call on that, David.
I don't need that plotline.
Yeah, me neither.
But on the point, well, actually, first to respond to Mike's point about the GRC, I think the end, like that end scene, that's sort of very Doctor Strangelove-esque, like critique of nations. I think it's also like a UN-esque thing, and the U.S. just has an outsized presence at that table.
100%.
And so I think that's just what that was. But in terms of Batroc, I mean, he was on the phone with Sharon, and I think this is going back to my point earlier. I don't know. I think Sharon's gone bad, and I think he's still bad, and I think there's a whole The whole
Yeah.
power
Right.
broker element. Like I don't think I
I kind
understand
of
the
got an
4D chess
opposite
thing,
spin on
but
it.
she
Sharon's
called
gone, like-
she called that guy, got him out of prison, and dealed arms to Carly. Like
Yeah.
I don't care what happens, like what 4D game she's playing. She has
Yeah.
put so many people's lives, innocent
That-
people's
yeah.
lives at risk. Like I
Yeah.
think she's just bad.
We're gonna have to, obviously we have to wait and see. Man 14 or Mon 14 has asked a couple times if we think she's working for Fury. I cling to that hope. And I also
Yeah.
just think
Where does that come from,
narratively,
though?
And
from,
that
like,
like
a narrative
Shield
structure
is just gonna
point of view.
drop in at the end and just save the day and be like, just kidding, like
Yeah,
well,
Ralph
I mean-
Boner.
Secretly,
Wait,
Shield
I
infiltrated
why
the
do you think
sword,
that's
and now
happening?
she's
to
I'm
that
curious.
hope that there is some sort of 4D chess going on. I still think she might be working with or for Nick Fury. But
I agree.
and Man 14, we disagree amongst ourselves about that. I think they're hitting the nail so hard on the head, like they're going so out of their way to convince us that she's the power broker, that it indicates to me that it's going to be
That-
like,
yeah.
oh my
Wait,
god,
but
she's
Well,
where
the
does Fury come
if
from?
she's-
I'm confused by that.
if
Where
she's
does- where
actually-
does Fury come into the picture? Why do you
It's
think
just
that?
Shield, I think.
He's in charge of everything.
Yeah.
It's like Shield is behind everything. Nick
I mean-
Fury is like
But these are
the
kind of
Charlie.
Yeah,
of
they
the
deal
universe,
with
you
mostly
know?
like cosmically related things though too, right? Or like just like there's a
Yeah,
lot of like
well, that and,
scrolls
like, the
and
motives just seem off. I don't.
Hades days in the
Yes, I
chat.
agree.
The first part of their comment I agree with, which is Sharon Carter probably called. Is it Batrock or is it Batroc? I don't know.
But
Batroc.
Batroc.
Batroc,
Okay,
yeah.
Batroc.
Kind of in
To be-
between there.
Batroc.
To be a part of the Flag Smashers, and in return keep him out of prison, and then Sharon can use him to track down Carly, which makes sense. The next thing they said was that so that she could gain the power broker's trust and infiltrate it from the inside. I think that's a stretch. I think that she just is the power broker and is tracking Carly and using him to get
That's
to Carly.
That's
I think
fair.
I think it's just a straight line. I think it's the Marvel Occam's razor, where it's like
I don't know.
That's
I
fair,
agree
but
with that.
if she's
I
helping
don't-
out
I'm holding out
the
too.
Flag
Jenny and I are on the
Smashers,
same
she's going
page with
against
it.
Sam and Bucky like pretty hard. Like, and she's
I
proven.
think she's there, dude. She got left. She got left in this world, abandoned for 5 years. Like everything that she stood for, totally abandoned. Like it's
Yeah.
like the
Well,
it's
this
like-
Yes,
is
but
kinda
again,
like-
if her
It's
reaction to that would
true.
be to get civilians who did nothing killed, I can understand her wanting revenge.
I think it's like a Luke Cage kind of thing.
The
Right? She wants to
CIA.
control the
remember
crime.
something.
But Luke
you know?
Cage fights for his community.
Well,
you know,
no,
like,
I mean, it's like that misplaced. Like Luke Cage is like, if I can control, get a hold of this, I can sort of direct like the right. Isn't that the thing in Luke Cage? Like that's one of the themes of Luke Cage, is it not? I haven't seen it in a while. But like,
I'm
sort
not
of like
I'm not understanding that.
I'll just say it for Sharon. Like
you
that-
can see Sharon being bitter,
Doesn't
but you
wanna
just can't
role
seeing
play.
her being
I
that
can't
bitter.
see
No, no,
her,
no, no.
like,
I just
Is
don't
it
see her going
reaching
against
out
her
and getting
friends like that.
civilians killed. It's just a whole other level
That
for me.
too, yeah.
Or
I
turning,
think,
or
well, I
doing
think she's
something
bad. I
deliberate
think
to
it's
get
misguided,
Sam
but I think she's
killed.
bad. And I'm saying in Luke
Fair.
Cage, isn't it like if he can control the crime, like if he can fight the crime and like direct the crime, then he can lessen it, right? Isn't that one of the
Yeah.
isn't that
Right.
sort of thing? And I think
Yeah.
I think it's
Yeah.
coming, and I think it's coming from that point with Sharon, where she's like, if I can become the the ultimate power in the crime world, I can sort of direct it and control it. I think
Yeah.
I think it got to her in the past 5 years. I think
That
she's-
is actually valid.
I think
like,
she's
I can see
become-
All
that
right. Well,
being
how's
a
the
thing.
reveal gonna be? I'm the like she's gonna turn around dramatically.
I
and
think
be
we
like,
already had
"I'm
the
power
reveal when it cuts to
broker."
her in that crazy art house and she's on the
But-
phone. And
Yeah,
it's like,
almost
Alice
every
and
shot
all
of her,
the-
as you
it's just
pointed,
true,
It's
yeah.
on the
like,
nose
it's-
though.
it's
It's
just-
so obvious.
Yeah,
I
to
know,
me,
It's like
that's
Marvel
so on the
has
nose.
been
To
on
me,
this
Did
for
we?
a
the
while.
That's how
conversation-
WandaVision was, though. That's how WandaVision was. Like, I think I don't know.
We're
I just
obviously
don't want to
not
get my.
gonna know
I don't want
until
to
we
go by.
know.
I don't want to build up again and then be disappointed. When I'm
Right.
like,
I mean,
oh,
the
she
whole
is
thing with
power
like
broker?
she's got
She's Ralph
stolen
Boner.
art, she's on the phone with Batroc,
She's Ralph
blah blah
Boner.
blah. I think it's so obvious that
the-
it's like too obvious.
The reason why I think the Val isn't the power broker is because she specifically says like you taking the serum was a good idea and it's made you very valuable to like certain people.
And
And
besides, that's
and there, yeah, she's referring to the power broker essentially, right? So
And that's-
she probably has connections to the power broker.
Yeah, I thought so too.
And the only other reason why you could be like Sharon might not like you're saying like oh she's directly like endangering like innocent people's lives like regardless of whether her motives are but like that don't rule out the fact that they like I said they could swoop in and like not
Yeah.
kill people like
Well,
it just looks like they're going to endanger people to us right now but at the very like the 4D chess thing will play out and nobody will get injured or nobody
saw-
will
I
be
saw
a
that
casualty
Just a
because of
little
her.
bit yeah, I don't think she's the power broker.
It seems
I
like
saw Patrick-
unnecessarily crazy though. Yeah.
I saw her
The
saying
fact that
Patrick
like
as an
the
injured
five
way
of
to,
us
like,
are
Hold
sitting
on,
here,
one at a
like,
time. One at a time.
The fact the 5 of us are having this extended argument in the first place means the writers have done a really good
It's
job
what they want.
fucking with
Yeah.
us. Like, well played,
Whatever.
sirs and madams. Like, we're all really at odds and confused, which means
Yes.
the show
Hold
is
on.
good.
I don't think
All in the
it's
game-
Ralph
hold
Bohner
on.
Reveal, though, so
All in the
that's
game pointed out. She's. Oh wait, no, not all in the game. I'm sorry, Christina. I'm sorry, Christina says that in the mid-season trailer we see Sharon walking in a dark space, maybe a parking lot. Yeah, that is a shot of Sharon we haven't seen yet, and it's her.
well, there's
It's
actually-
her
there's
looking
actually one
very
that-
When she
like.
gets into
there's
the
a leak.
back of that car in the
There
second
was a set
episode.
leak. There was a set leak of Sharon and Batroc. It looks like they're in New York. So
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
Sharon is going to be.
Yeah, we talked earlier about how like the scroll thing seems less likely because of WandaVision having a scroll reveal in the post-credit scene, and this would be 2 series in
I
a
think it'd be
row
too much.
with like a
Yeah, I
scroll
don't
reveal.
know.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't know what the name is, but who said scrolls are in the game? I don't know if you were here at the beginning of the conversation. I had suddenly convinced myself that like Val was a Skrull because that happens in Secret Invasion, but I agree with Levi that like having 2 stingers
Too
with
much.
Skrulls might be a bit much, like
Yeah.
might be a bit too.
Well, I mean, no, we're getting
That sort of
some of
messes
it in
with my
Loki
theory.
too. We know there's a scroll literally in the trailer.
Yeah,
of
there's a
Loki
scroll
too,
coming in
so, I mean,
Loki as
like,
well, so
I could see them really pushing the Secret Invasion thing. I think again, like Scrolls
Too
involvement,
far off.
even in this
It's too
show.
far away. It would complicate every
I
story
know,
going forward because people would see this and they'd
well, you
go,
gotta think
"Is this
about the
Eternals?
MCU
Is this
kinda
Black
has a-
Widow? Is this Spider-Man?"
And then
None
you'd
of
think
those-
everybody was a
Schedule's
scroll
off,
moving
but
Yeah,
forward.
yeah, yeah,
The
it-
schedule's
it's too
kinda
much.
off.
Yeah.
maybe
with the
we're
MCU in
supposed
general.
to though. Like in what I don't know. I mean, again, I'm not
It
working.
is
with
an
actual
invasion.
evidence. I'm speculating
It's secret.
wildly, but like we saw a scroll in
don't
her own skin at the end of WandaVision, and
Yeah.
presumably had been sent by Nick Fury because we know Nick Fury's aboard a scroll spaceship in outer
Mhm.
space, and presumably this person has come to tell Monica, we need your help with your mom's old friend up in space, you know.
Mhm.
But that was like a scroll who's a good scroll, not an evil scroll. And I don't know, maybe there is a Secret Invasion tease with like the kidnapping and replacement.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
wait-
no, there's different kind of factions of the Scrolls. Like
Right.
in Captain Marvel, we did get like, they weren't too radical, but Kevin Feige has even said this, there are radical
Yeah.
sides of the
Right.
Scrolls. There are
So wait a
different
minute.
factions, so.
I just thought about something.
Secret
Do we have a sense of like over how much time has passed in this show? Because there's been a lot of traveling, people going to Baltimore, going to Europe,
I think about a
going to
month.
Madripoor. Yeah, so like
A month. I think
we
that's what they
didn't
said.
we didn't
This
know
episode.
going into the show where it landed in relation to WandaVision, because we knew WandaVision was specifically like 2 weeks after the blip, because Vision specifically says like that was 2 weeks ago or something inside of WandaVision, and WandaVision pretty much takes place like also like within like a short period of time. So regardless of where Falcon and Winter Soldier started, we can assume that now is after WandaVision, because enough time has passed in Falcon and Winter Soldier, I think, for it to like undoubtedly be after the events of WandaVision.
I think
now.
John Walker has only been capped for a month. I think is what they said because when
Yeah.
they discharge him, they say when they discharge him, they like
Yes.
pull back him for a month.
All right, so even more evidence then that like where we are now timeline wise is like
later.
specifically after WandaVision is all I'm saying. So I'm saying like
Yeah.
White
What'd you
Vision
say, Jenny?
exists.
He's
Right,
out there.
That's true.
White
Yeah.
Vision's like in a cabin in the woods having an identity crisis.
Okay,
he's
but,
gonna
like-
be-
Same
he'll
as
be back
Wanda?
in a
No, I
few
don't think
years.
Yeah,
like,
people are saying in the chat
sure.
this is 6 months after Endgame.
Okay, so
Which is a
I'm
lot
I was specifically getting at like do we think White Vision is gonna make an appearance in a post credit scene?
No.
What?
If-
Why?
if-
Absolutely do not.
Why?
It would be a weird connection, but
Like,
they also haven't had
why?
any connections
Yeah.
to WandaVision. yet,
Sometimes
which-
though the post credit scene is kind of like an unrelated thing that is just
Yeah,
like sort of a
right.
tease for what's next.
but
It's
why
not
do you
always
think that?
Right,
Like,
but
just-
he's not
just
what's
because,
next.
or
Like I
is
feel
there
like
a
we're gonna
reason?
see him again, but like way down.
because
the
I'm a
line.
YouTuber, John, and I want to have all these
I
things
know,
line up, and I want to
like
be able to talk
theorizing
about
too.
it. Damn it!
I like theorizing too.
People
I
in
haven't
chat,
done
can
as
you
much
tell me
for the
why
show,
it's
'cause-
6 months after? I want to like when do we get that information? I'm sure
Yeah.
you're
Oh
right.
no, they're right.
But-
I'll find it, but
But when like where is that said? I want to
Source your cite your sources, people.
because that makes sense though.
Yeah.
That would put it way after. Mike is right. White Vision is around. He's thriving.
Yeah, he's been
He's-
around
he's
at this
living.
point.
I just think
It's
that the over the period of the show has.
But
been about
also,
a month.
Monica Rambeau is a thing. Like, you
I
know,
think she's gone. I think she's in space.
Yeah,
She's
yeah,
going
Yeah.
to space for
But
sure.
we've been talking. The reason I said all this is because we're talking
just
about
found
Nick
an
Fury, and
article
I'm
on
like,
These
Jedi
are,
Jive that
she's
says
obviously
this, so
they're obviously like
that's pretty
repeatedly
credible, in my
setting up
opinion.
the expectation for like young Avengers, and we've got Monica, and we've got like Wanda's kids now, and we've got potentially Eli, or not Eli.
it would just be
Eli or
fun because at the end of
Yeah,
WandaVision,
I think they call them both.
at the end of WandaVision, we're talking about how like, oh, okay, like Monica Rambeau's a thing now. We're gonna see her in like the new Avengers down the
Thank
road.
you,
Like,
Christina. It's while,
so,
it's
I
while
mean,
we're
like-
fixing Red Wing. He says it to Torres.
yeah, we said that Torres is gonna get a hint on it and then fix all of it. But anyway,
no,
yeah,
no, that's where they said the
Jesse
months.
Mando, when
I'm sorry.
He was on the beach trying to get a tan. He's definitely like having.
But
a
anyway,
little-
if Nick Fury does show up in some capacity, like in regards to like Sharon Carter working for him or whatever kind of thing, then it
That would come out of nowhere.
couldn't we
like,
see Monica Rambeau then too if she's doing Nick Fury things? But
no.
Yeah,
Too
I-
much.
I-
It's too much,
I
guys.
mean, we
think
haven't
they
had
need
one
to-
connection to WandaVision yet, though, which is
I
like
don't
kind of
think there's
a bit
gonna
little.
be.
Yeah,
I
There's
don't
not gonna
think
be.
there's
It's too much.
gonna be. It's
Yeah.
too
Not
much.
in an
also,
Emperor
also,
Emperor
WandaVision was
but,
supposed to come out after Falcon and Winter Soldier
Yeah.
originally.
Monica's
So
coming in
Mike's right.
Captain Marvel too.
That's true,
She's,
that's true,
she's
that's true.
definitely in
All right,
Captain
hold
Marvel
on.
too. She's
There's a lot of
Tiana
people
Paris is
talking about
cast.
it.
Like,
yeah,
she's-
okay.
That's going
Okay.
to be picked up again. I think the Monica Rambeau plotline is going to come back in Captain Marvel 2. Most
Thank you.
immediately.
That's fair.
Thank you,
That's fair.
Angela,
Yeah.
too. Angela Lewis. It's in the description. 6 months after Endgame.
End of Avengers Endgame.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yep.
That's
Thank
makes
you,
sense, yeah.
Angela.
And Christina, what I was trying to say,
Okay.
Mike, I wasn't trying to talk about. Christina mentioned that it's while they're fixing the Red Wing with Torres. I think he mentions it too. that-
Oh, okay, yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah.
Christina and Angela with the citations. Thank you.
But yeah, I don't know. I think that's too many connections. I think Mike is dead on. WandaVision was supposed to come out after this. John is
Right.
also right. The schedule is all messed up. I think
Yeah.
these things are not gonna connect as much.
Because I think that Val scene
Totally.
didn't quite hit the way it was originally designed to for that
It's
reason.
supposed
Because
to be from Black Widow.
Yeah,
like, it's
Black
supposed to be
Widow.
like,
Right, that we would have
she's
already
walking
met
down
her.
the hallway. yeah.
because our reaction after that scene was like,
Wait,
oh, okay,
really?
Julia Louis-Dreyfus, like
Yeah.
wicked cool, but like
Yeah.
that was weird.
But
like
why?
that.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
we could tell again. Mike and I weren't familiar with that particular comic character, and we could tell just with like the hair, the blue streak in the hair. We were like, okay, clearly
Hold on,
that's
hold
like
on.
a
She's
visual
supposed
reference.
to be in Black Widow?
She
Yeah.
was supposed to be in Black Widow, and I don't know if they've edited around that or cut that now because of the thing. But Black Widow was supposed to come out before all.
See, if we had been introduced to her in Black Widow,
It
and
makes
then
the way
we,
the scene, the way the scene is
It
shot,
makes the scene
makes
an
way more
entirely-
sense.
Yeah.
that would
completely,
make it
yeah.
make
Because
more
I mean,
sense.
honestly, we were. I think
because they
was so
treated the
bold
scene
about
like
when
we
I
were
said
supposed to know who she
super
was.
confused.
Like,
we
wait,
were like,
exactly.
How
what?
did I know this?
Right. Man
Yeah.
14 brings up an interesting point. He says
because we
do
knew
you
the
think-
actress but not the character.
He says, "Do you
Right.
think Bucky and Sam all know about what Wanda did in Westview? Because I feel like there would be at least a mention.
How would
mention
they
it, or
not?
Sam
No,
would try to
that's a
reach
good-
I
out.
don't
that's
think
a
so. I
deep,
don't
dark
think
government
Sword
secret.
Yeah.
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 Sword cover. the
Right.
shit
You think
over
you think
there.
they buried it? You think they just
Yeah, I
completely
don't
were
think
like
the
no.
rest of the world knows about this.
So wait, did they? I
That's
don't
the
think.
Twilight
Did they
Zone, like,
clarify? Did they clarify at the end of WandaVision? Like they specifically showed her like put Agatha under like another spell where it's like, okay, I'm gonna keep you on the side here for when I need you. But did they like clarify whether she like returned all of the townspeople to their original memory and made them forget everything? Because they were like being tortured for a while there, being like, stop doing this to us. But like she returned,
Yeah.
like
They
gave them their
remember-
freedom
No,
back.
they were
But did
back. When
they
they
I know,
all,
but-
like,
they all stare
swarm
at
around
Wanda
her.
as she's walking.
dude, but I'm saying is, but now do they remember everything that happened? Because if they did, that would become a like. There's no way they wouldn't let that
I see
information
what
They
you're
get
would
doing.
be
out.
able
I
to
think
cover that up.
She would have had to give them all amnesia, like in order for them to not.
I'm pretty sure they know.
Because if it's a deep dark government secret, it's like no, now
no,
like
I
a
see
town
what
of
you're
3,000
saying,
people
Mike.
are
I think
gonna
the
be like,
government- I think the
I was
government-
under Wanda's control for 2 weeks. Like it's not
They
gonna.
got I think they got
Yeah, they had to keep that
Men
under
in
wraps.
Black.
Yeah,
You know,
there's some
but
kind of
I don't
psychic
think
cleanup
Wanda did.
crew that had to come through.
Wait,
Yeah,
so you do
it's-
think that? 'Cause I mean, there was no evidence of that. So
Well, no.
Well-
Clearly, they remembered everything at the end of WandaVision. But what
Yeah.
Mike's trying to say is they wouldn't be able to Shield would not be able to cover it up if they all remembered.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
I guess.
So, yeah, so they might have to change
Literally every kid would be like, I was locked in my bedroom for a week.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That'd be traumatizing.
that's
the
kind of
next
like
time we fix
criticism.
I
this
think
lost
we
in
have to
WandaVision.
remember that like WandaVision is a one and done. Like we know that Falcon and the Winter Soldier and that Loki were designed to allow
Wait,
for future
one and done.
seasons.
You
Like
mean
the
you mean
season
Ralph
one-
Boner is not coming back?
I don't know about Ralph
But he
Boner. The
is.
show
My
WandaVision-
God.
Did you see what the
My
writer said or
God.
the
the
director
show
said?
WandaVision
Ralph Boner,
is
yeah.
Wait, he was
coming back- is
Mephisto,
not
wasn't he?
coming back.
I'm not
We
even
actually-
joking. Did you
If you
say-
go if you go back and listen to our live stream, we actually agreed that, like, you know what, this Ralph Boner thing, like, isn't over yet. Like, he's.
Oh,
No,
no.
it's not.
And
I'm
we
not
have
even
talked
joking. It's
so
not.
much
Yeah.
about
I don't
that
think it is.
already.
I don't
Like,
think
we
it
should
is
not
either.
All right,
go
yeah.
back down
Let's
that
not talk
road.
about Ralph Boner right now. Yeah.
But no, we know that like multiple characters are
Mike.
coming back. Like we know Monica's
Sorry.
coming back. We know Wanda's coming back. I'm sure White
cicada
Vision
on
will
the
be
wall.
back in future. Like I'm sure we'll see Catherine Hahn again. She's everyone's favorite person on the planet.
Yeah, I'm pretty positive she'll
But
be in
so the
Doctor Strange.
characters are coming back, but that storyline, the WandaVision storyline, was designed to be one and done. So like speculating about the future of the people in Westview, it's not even germane because we're not going to see those people again. Like it's
That's
not
fair, that's
important
fair.
in the MCU
Yeah.
storyline anymore.
However,
Just
I
that,
do
like
want
the
to see
main
it.
characters are still relevant, but not that.
Someone in the
plot.
chat think they thought that White Vision would be in Armor Wars. I don't know. The validity
Yeah,
of
that's
that.
An
Possible?
interesting
That's my thought,
connection.
too.
Maybe.
That's-
I feel like White Vision, whatever happens to him, like, is basically like he better be like immortal essentially, because like if you think about it, Vision has died like 4 times now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Too
Yeah.
much.
he's
So
a
many-
The
robot,
original
but
Vision
it's
died
not like-
twice.
No,
Like,
there's
He's
an
not gonna
amazing
die of
somebody.
age.
I think Devonte
a
a bit
robot.
further up said she wished they'd sort of held on faster to the Agents of Shield. The reason I mention this, obviously, everyone here knows I love talking about Agents of Shield. And while I kind of
You know.
agree with Devonte about that, I do want to point out there has been a rumor that Clark Gregg and Chloe Bennett might be re-entering the MCU as
Secret
Phil
Invasion,
Coulson.
yeah.
Right, like Secret Invasion would be the logical place for that, but I think it's like all but confirmed that like Daisy Johnson and
Disney
Phil
needs to
Coulson are
say
coming
it,
back.
but yes, it's right
Well, what
there.
they did with the Darkhold and WandaVision, though, didn't they? That kind of
We
mess up.
we talked a lot about that
bit.
during our WandaVision streams, but it actually doesn't mess it up. It fits in pretty nicely with what
Okay.
they did with the Darkhold. I mean, the sort of origin story of the Darkhold was very similar
Hmm.
in both, so it actually fits in.
Top Vance situation.
And then remind me,
what?
where did it leave off in the show?
With the
On
Darkhold,
Yeah.
they destroy. I think it was either that they destroyed it or that Robbie Reyes took it to another dimension, and there were a lot of teases of like future things at the end of that. Partly because Robbie Reyes was supposed to have his own show.
Yeah,
that
I know.
never played out. Sadly, never played out because that actor's
Ghost
great.
Rider, I think, will
But-
come back eventually.
But I feel like
you
there's space because they made these Doctor
Yeah,
Strange
Blade. Yeah,
references
man, Nick
at the
Cage,
end
right?
of that. They have like the potential to bring Ghost Rider back, and there's more.
know. Oh, Nick Cage. Oh my
traffic in
God,
that
yeah,
if
if
they
you played him
want it.
again, that'd be great.
there are
They
so many
recast the
characters that
Darkhold.
I'm ready. Like, it's funny that they're like they'll Julia Louis-Dreyfus, who's like a super well-known actress, is like sort of
Yeah.
like, I mean, I'm gonna call it an obscure character because we didn't know who it is. Some people might be offended by that. But yeah, I don't think most people know who that is. But there's a long list of characters that are like, yeah, they got to show up eventually. Or like, we were talking like, remember how we were talking about, we knew that there was going to be like a celebrity cameo. There was going to be some,
Yeah,
and
we
we were
heard
like,
about
oh,
that.
what if it's like Matt Murdock or something?
I thought
Or
it was
what-
Florence Pugh.
Yeah. Or what if it's Frank Castle? Or what if it's, there are a lot of these characters that are like going to have to show up eventually.
But like thematically, it makes sense, and we've speculated several
Daredevil's
times. that-
supposed to be in a couple things coming
Yeah,
up, right?
no, I mean,
Yeah.
Kevin Feige
Allegedly,
had
yeah.
name checked Daredevil, Jessica Jones, and Luke Cage as like he'd love to bring them back. I think we might see Jessica Jones in She-Hulk. Makes sense.
I think Daredevil's going to be in. Matt Murdock's in She-Hulk, right? 'Cause
we
it's like
certainly have
courtroom
we
drama.
thought that Matt Murdock might appear in Spider-Man because
Spider-Man,
like
yeah.
Spidey's gonna need a lawyer now.
Yeah.
He was on
Yes.
set too, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Well, hold on. I think that
Actually, speaking
you're
of
right
that,
about
I have
Spider-Man,
some
but it's the
leaks
She-Hulk is
about-
almost. I feel like he's going to be part of the.
That's
he's
what
going to
I
be like a
said, yeah.
side cast character because it's
Mhm.
it. Isn't
So
the
we're gonna
character a
see this-
lawyer? Isn't
Yes.
She-Hulk a lawyer?
Yes,
Yeah.
Jessica
And it's
Jones.
gonna
Yes,
be-
Jennifer
Has to be-
Walters.
Yeah,
Jennifer
Walters is a
Walters, she-
lawyer.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Why does
I'd
she-
never
So it's
put
going to
that
be like
together,
I read that it was going to be in like some description that it was going to be sort of like a courtroom drama esque show, and that would make
Yeah.
perfect sense.
That'd be
for
pretty
Matt
sweet.
Murdock.
That'd
That'd
be
be great.
interesting.
Yeah, makes sense.
Right.
So I
Jessica
mean, there's
Jones fits
so many
perfectly
like
in that, so.
thematic. We keep making Punisher references too because he is a morally ambivalent character.
Wanna see Frank Castle.
So good. If
Yeah,
anyone
I
has
think
not watched-
Punisher is going to show up in some
Punisher,
Thor too. Like Thor and
like,
Punisher have
that
a
was just
have a.
such a good show. If anyone hasn't seen that, like
Spider-Man is
go
going
go
to be
watch
big,
that. It was
David.
so good.
All right, so wait a minute. It's like 4:15 now, or like Levi, it's probably 1:15 for you, right? Yeah.
115, yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, is there anything more Falcon and Winter Soldier that we want to cover before we kind of like go into the randomness?
We we didn't
I
talk
mean-
about
I
it,
mean,
but the
we-
action
we-
scene in the beginning was
Yes. Like I think
Yeah.
it's
Oh my god, we hardly even
Yeah, we
got
touched
into
upon
that.
it,
that was one of those classic sort of like versus, like where it was, I mean, it was two good guys versus a bad guy essentially, but it was definitely a
That's
like
an
you know,
end of an episode.
Falcon and Bucky versus U.S. Agent, like, and
Yeah.
it was very well done, and I like yeah.
Anthony
And yet
Anthony
again,
Mackie's
like
flip
cinema
double was also
worthy, like
enjoyable.
feature film worthy effects and fight choreography in that scene.
Yeah.
Like,
Some people pointed out too that also that was it in this chat. Sam and Bucky were like basically only trying to disarm him. It was only a matter of getting the shield from him, whereas
looked
John
like
Walker
a-
was obviously trying to kill them.
Kind of took like taking the gauntlet off Thanos. at one
Yes,
scene.
yes, I put that.
Yeah,
I put that in our reaction.
yeah.
Spider-Man pulling on the gauntlet. Yeah,
Broke his arm. Oof.
same arm too.
Oh,
Yeah, Ooh.
Oh, you really heard that too. And,
It was
like, he
graphic.
yeah.
Which is
Oh.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
I didn't even
but
know
that
that could
was
Well,
happen
it was
with
funny
super
because he
serum.
kept fighting after that, and I was like, wait, didn't his arm just break? And then he kept.
well. He fought for like a second, and then Bucky
yeah,
like
no,
just
but I was like, wait. Yeah,
throttled him.
but his arm-
Yeah, it was a great. That was we didn't. I mean, like we had that one insane Falcon scene in the first episode, right? Was it? Yeah, that was the first
Yeah,
episode.
like
It was the intro, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and then obviously like there have been some good. Like there was it the next episode where they were like on the tractor trailers like on top. And that was another good action scene, but there really hasn't been that much more.
show
We're
us it
gonna
all.
get,
Oh, yeah,
we're gonna
last
get a
week-
big,
The Dora
a big
John
Milaje
Walker.
scene, which is
Oh,
still,
Dora
like, my
Milaje scene, yeah,
favorite
that-
Oh
yeah.
yeah,
the whole
Mike, you're forgetting
show.
last week. Last week's was awesome.
Yeah.
The Super
Yeah.
Soldier
No,
fight.
ne-
My
next
favorite
week,
thing that
the
has happened
finale
on this
will
show
have
is the
the
Dora
finale will
Milaje.
have a killer.
That's been pretty
a killer
dope, yeah.
Fight scene.
Yeah,
The show
it's-
really has had it all. Man.
It's
Oh,
gonna be
also, we didn't
further
even talk about
complicated.
this. We didn't
What?
talk about Sam's briefcase.
Oh,
You
yeah.
mentioned
True.
it. You
Well, yeah,
mentioned
we
the
talked
Wakandans,
about how it
yeah.
was gonna
little
be
bit, but
an
Christina's
upgraded.
pointing out
A
that Bucky
capsule.
didn't use his bionic arm against John, and that it's a detail to show that he's not a merciless killer. I
Yeah.
think that's lovely
But
because there's
it also
also
got
the
all messed
parallel
up,
with
didn't
like,
it?
yeah, it
The
got all
shot
messed
in the
up. He like
fight, right, gets
short-circuited.
electrocuted,
But
yeah.
I didn't notice that, and I think that's lovely because there's
Oh, I
also the
haven't
scene
noticed
on the boat where he like fixes the bolt, and Sam's
Okay.
like, "Why didn't you use your metal arm?" And he
I'm
makes this like
right-handed, yeah.
goofy excuse. He's like, "I don't always think of it. I'm right-handed."
Alrighty, yeah.
I pointed out in our reaction, Jenny, that to me was just this like it signifies that Bucky is a human. He's still human,
Yes.
even
And
though
he's
he's
embracing his human side.
Yeah.
You know, he's coming back to like being. It's like this thing where he couldn't have a
That's why I
regular
thought the
human
boat scene was
date
so
because he's
good.
not a regular
Yeah.
human, but he's trying to be a regular human. He's trying to
Yeah.
find his place in this world, like in the here and now, rather than being like man out of time super assassin. He's like, okay, it's time to.
Yeah, we saw
learn
Bucky
how to
really.
be
He got his humanity back, like, and then some in this episode because it
Yeah.
was multiple scenes, like that scene, him using
yeah.
his non-mechanical arm, and then also him smiling multiple times. Where we're like, whoa, Bucky just smiled. Like we don't
And the
really.
incredible sort of psychological. He's had both like a personal and a sort of sociological awakening. Like it's not only that he's okay doing human stuff and being a human, and he's going to go make real amends this time, but also that thing where he said, you know, Steve and I didn't realize what it would mean to hand that shield to a black man. I owe you an apology. It was like this overwhelming moment of self-awareness, this acknowledgement of his own privilege, which to contrast that with John Walker, who's there screaming, "I am Captain America," over like the prostrate
That's pretty
body of a black veteran. Like
Shout
the,
out.
Yeah.
the parallel of the two
Yeah.
is just really striking, and like the incredible level of self-awareness Bucky reached in this episode was like, it was moving. It was very touching.
Yeah. Shout out
What-
to Hustle Mando. Also, Bucky actually slept on a couch instead of being on the floor.
that's
That
so
is a
true.
good detail. That is.
Yeah.
That's a good detail.
I didn't pick
think
up on
that's,
that.
I think that was definitely intentional. Yeah, but
And something you were
Um,
talking about earlier. Sorry,
yeah.
John, to cut you off.
No, go
Mike,
ahead,
was,
go ahead, you're good.
we were talking about how do we think that the sort of quote unquote fight between Zemo and Bucky at the memorial, and how he beats him by showing him he's not, and we were wondering if that changes, if that's going to challenge Zemo's philosophy. But
Oh yeah. We
remember
talked about
but
this
Zemo said-
extensively last week.
Zemo said that he crossed his name out of Bucky's book. So I don't know.
Yes.
I think that Bucky has earned like the second spot of you and Steve Rogers, incorruptible.
Yeah. There's
I-
actually.
I think his he's gonna maintain his sort of philosophy, but he just is now on good terms with Bucky.
There There was another part about that scene that I forgot to talk about that I really, really, really liked, and that was the Zemo. I forget exactly how he said it, but he was basically like, he referred to like, he was talking to Bucky and saying like, Sam is just like Steve Rogers, he's too stubborn or whatever, and that was like a beautiful way of like backhandedly like
complimenting him,
complimenting him, essentially being like, you know what, Sam is worthy of being Captain America, and he said it in his own Zemo way. But, you know, I thought that was a beautiful moment because, like, even Zemo, like, approves of Sam being Captain America.
I love that scene. We talked about Zemo and his sort of philosophy, his ideology a lot last week. But he had this line where he just sort of said, "I bet you two haven't even been to the memorial." This is his origin story. His family was killed in someone else's war in the middle of an Avengers.
And it's
conflict.
so great. This show is so deep and so layered. You know, talking about race and government and so many things. But my favorite line of commentary in the entire show is still Zemo. Only a forward fashion thinking black man would think of himself as a pimp. It's so funny. It's such a good line.
He's so out of pocket so many times, but like Danielle Brühl carries it off. Like he pulls it off.
He's out of line, but he's right.
But he's not
Not only is it hilarious, it's like somehow there's also like meaningful commentary in that. It's like, oh, you're such a good character, Zemo.
You gotta give the show some credit. Like,
Only
it's just as good when it's just two guys like sipping on some brewskis having a conversation, and then when there's like a crazy action sequence going on. Like, it's really got strengths everywhere.
This is part of why I love that scene at the memorial. Is like he got Bucky there. That was his thing. Like he wanted Bucky to bear witness to the history, to like understand his own humanity. And then it is that final test. It's like if Bucky shoots him, he proves his point that all super soldiers are bad. And it, you know, if Zemo dies in that moment, he still wins. And Bucky, like dropping those bullets on the ground, like he's planned this in advance and he's kept his cool under pressure and he's not making it personal and all of these things. Like Zemo loses, and at that point, what is left for Zemo? Why would he even want to like escape and go on at this point? Because he has nothing left to fight for. If his entire sort of mission statement has been proven invalid, what is left for him but just to be kind of like, okay, ladies, take me to the raft. And I thought that was a beautiful scene. There's sort of a deep history. It's like this meeting between warriors who respect each other on a sort of fundamental level of code. It's like, you know, it's like the two samurai facing off or something like that. Like there's a code there that these two both understand and respect. It's like this two chess masters. Who have to stand up and be like, well played, sir. Good game. You know?
Bucky was even like, Zemo was like, I've decided not to kill you or whatever. And that was
imagine my surprise or whatever.
Yeah, he knows. But Zemo knows he's no competition, so it was just, you know. Can we also, by the way, appreciate for a second, like going into this show, like the way we were guessing what we were gonna see. You're like, this is gonna be like a buddy cop show, right? It's gonna be like kind of like buddy cops, and we were correct about it being grounded, but like this is definitely not a buddy cop show. Like right off the bat, the first episode, Sam and Bucky never even see each other in the first episode. So we ended up getting something so different. And it definitely was unexpected to see some of what we got.
Ago, there was a whole, I don't know if you guys remember this or were aware of it, but there was a whole like thing in the media that the age of superhero content was over, that like everyone was over it. And when the show The Boys came out, which sort of undercuts the superhero paradigm, you know, it's like, actually, they're not good and there's an evil structure underlying them. That was supposed to signal, allegedly, like the end of the age of like good versus evil superhero stuff. And obviously the MCU is plowing ahead. It's not the end of the era of superhero content at all. We're getting more and more and more. But what they're doing is much like the Captain America character, they're adapting that format so that it's not just about like good and evil, allies, Nazis, heroes and villains. It's about like everyone's shared humanity and about the need to like go deeper and look at each other as more than just like good and evil, black and white. So I mean, again, it's the meta commentary of the show, but they're really showing us that like the drama exists in the gray areas. The good stuff exists in the like things that are uncomfortable and that we can't come up with a clean answer for. And I mean, I'm kind of impressed for a Disney production that they're going like so hard and so deep on these things that actually matter to us in the real world. But they're doing a great job.
Yeah, this whole conversation about, you know, like, is the MCU kind of drying up with their kind of stories and how they approach the stories, and then I mean, after Endgame, there's this whole thing. I'm like, is the MCU ever going to reach this new level of hype that they? I mean, the hype for Endgame was like crazy. And that was
Highest
the
grossing
question of
film
like,
of all time.
are we ever going to get that again? And
Not anymore. Avatar got it back.
Not anymore. I
Right? Yeah,
guess.
Avatar.
Yeah,
oh my
it's
God,
true,
Avatar
it's
did
true,
it
it's
again.
true.
So stupid. But
My least favorite
They'll
film of all
just
time.
re-release Endgame and you'll take it.
I know. Honestly, I mean, probably. But well, I just kind of lost my train of thought. Yeah, but what how the shows are doing. I mean, like WandaVision, like interesting, like I've never seen before, kind of approaching with a sitcom. This show, tackling so many issues that are, I mean, literally happening right now as we speak. You know, like it's. I think this is how the MCU. Obviously, this is how the MCU will continue and
Adapt to
will bring
survive,
people back.
like
Yeah,
in
and how
biology, and they
survive, yeah.
have adapted to
Yeah.
survive, and they're
For sure.
thriving.
And
It's
we're
funny.
getting. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, considering that like usually superheroes and comic books and movies is like that's like the ultimate escape, but like
Yeah.
Falcon and
They don't
Winter
really do
Soldier
that this time of
specifically has
films.
been like escaping into reality almost.
I don't know. I
Yeah.
think that they've always been, at least in especially like the 60s and 70s. I feel like Stan Lee put a lot of commentary into.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah,
like
just more in the
There's
superhero
something very
movie
there's something
genre.
very
He doesn't
interesting
really talk
about
too much
that we
about it.
think of like entertainment as escapist content, and that this
it's always been political.
WandaVision in a way was escapist content because it
reflective
allowed us
reality.
to like enjoy the format. It allowed us all to
Yeah.
play around in the format of that without consequence. And then this one has been like forcing us to confront the ugliest parts of our current reality.
But it makes sure to stay hopeful.
But
That's something I really
exactly,
appreciate. Yeah.
Dylan, yes, I couldn't agree more. The fact that like we were very surprised that John Walker immediately faced consequence. That was something they tied up really quickly in this episode. I fully expected to see like the US and the
Yeah,
news
we were saying
media
that last week.
spinning it,
too.
being
Yeah.
like, he was
Yeah.
fighting terrorists and they're
Yeah,
all
exactly.
the same. I really actually appreciate the fact that they didn't wallow in that. It is very aspirational to imagine like power structure, especially in America, that holds the right people accountable and that doesn't just fall back into the same old sort of supremacist patterns. That's frankly not the way real America works. We see like people who shoot unarmed teenagers getting off without consequence all the time. It's happening all around us, but it's aspirational. It's something to like not lose track of. And that's what Sam represents, is this idea that like there is a better world that is worth fighting for. And I really appreciated that they didn't just wallow in the misery and be like, well, this is the way the John Walker thing would
Right.
play
That's where
out
the
in
boys can get
the
lost a
real
bit, I
world.
think. Is
True,
like I love
true,
the boys, but
true.
it's so dark to the point where sometimes I'm like, oh, this is really unsettling, which is what it's supposed to
Very
do.
violent,
It's supposed to
yeah.
be like
Yeah.
this is a world that is real and could
Violence.
happen.
I think
It gets gory.
Jenny, your point about just about the nature of the content, I think is what makes, and maybe this is a hot take, but it makes, I think not Falcon, but Sam Wilson is going to be like a better Captain America than Steve Rogers in the way that we've seen him earn it. Like Steve, it's like, okay, he's the main character, he's going to become Captain America. Where
Yeah.
over these past 10 years, we have seen this character grow and earn and like embody what it means to be Captain America. And
He's certainly
I
the
feel
better Captain America for this time and this
Yeah.
world. Like Steve was
Yeah.
a Captain America for a particular time and place, which is a bygone era, which isn't relevant anymore. And in the MCU specifically, Steve Rogers, as embodied by Chris Evans, is a character that we love, and everybody says
exactly.
like he's
Yeah.
the exception. He never represented supremacy. He always fought for
I saw
everybody.
I
But,
saw
like,
somebody,
but
Jen.
the thing he represents is outdated, and Sam is the best representation of this world. So yeah,
Just emotionally, I mean, I connect to Sam Wilson more
Yeah.
after
Much more,
seeing
yeah.
his build.
Yep.
To
Agreed. Yeah.
Totally.
I saw
100%.
somebody say it perfectly. They said Steve Rogers is who we wish we were, John Walker is who we are, and Sam Wilson is who we could be.
Yeah, somebody
I
said
love
that.
that.
Was
Yeah,
that
that's
Christina
great.
maybe last week? One of our friends said that last week, and it was so well put.
And I was like, wow, that's like a perfect way of putting it. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's really cool.
That like, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I've seen a couple things about people talking about, the Thunderbolts again. I think we already did kind of talk about this, but there is a strong possibility that we'll get some sort of raft end credit scene.
Yeah, we're thinking that that's where end credits is. Well, depending on what happens with Power Broker and Sharon Carter and all, like there's still so much that could be revealed that we could.
It got name dropped. The raft got name dropped. They wouldn't have done that. I
Right.
don't think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's specific. Yeah.
The raft. It's like
Yeah,
such
and
a cool name for like.
And
Holding
what is it?
facility.
Where basically it's just like there's going to be like a number of people, potentially even Carly as well. We said, right? She could end up on the raft, for all we know.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I
Put 'em
guess
all
not.
there.
Is the raft like who's in control of it? Is it
Thunderbolt Ross.
Ross, yeah.
oh, okay? So
Nothing.
why is then Wakanda? They're going, like I said, it's just a fact that it's maximum security. That's why.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about earlier. That's what
Yeah,
I
that's
think
why I was
John
confused a little bit.
earlier.
And they're going through, I guess, like official channels rather
Yeah,
than just.
Wakanda's pretty legit
So
when
y-
it comes to respecting international.
Yeah,
like,
Wakanda
they're like-
knows enough to like respect
do it
other
by the
people's
book.
systems if they want their own system respected and left alone.
Right.
Like,
So
they're
what do
playing
we
by the
think?
book. They're not
What do
trying
we
to
think that scene is? Do we think it's like, oh, we see Zemo in a cell on the raft, and then like somebody coming into his cell
It's
who's
Ross.
gonna
I think it's gonna be Ross because he's also
Yeah.
is gonna be in. We know for a fact he's in Black Widow. I think it was
Yeah,
gonna be another
he's in that,
Black
isn't
Widow
he?
to Falcon Winter Soldier
in the trailer,
connection
yeah.
where
Right.
he's clearly doing something in that movie.
Mm.
okay, yeah.
You know,
Well,
I
and I
think he's
think
building a
John
team,
Walker
man.
would be an easy contender for that team as well.
No,
so-
Oh.
John Walker's Dark Avengers. I think he's
That's right,
the
you're
other
right.
end. He's
well,
like
I mean,
he's like
MCU's
total
changed
bad.
things, but
So
I
they got
know,
a lot
but
of different branches kind of
exactly.
growing
That's what I was
here.
saying
They're
earlier.
Yeah.
I think we got Elijah. We see Elijah, Wiccan, and Speed are going to be in
Yes.
the Young Avengers
you're right.
Yeah.
Potential, yeah.
potentially. And then we have
And that's the
Kate
beauty of the
Bishop,
TV
Kate
shows.
Bishop.
And the White
Like-
Vision is West Coast Avengers.
West Coast Avengers.
West
We have
Coast
the,
Yeah.
Avengers.
the Thunderbolts
you-
are going to be like
Who do you think's gonna be in
anti-heroes. And
West
then,
Coast
Too many Avengers.
White Vision.
Oh. And then they might all have different power struggles and like ways that they should run the world. They got a lot of interesting stories they can tell with so many different characters.
David, yeah, I was theorizing a Thunderbolts Dark Avengers crossover, which is always
I mean,
possible.
that's kind of seems. I would be surprised if they did two separate teams like Dark Avengers.
Yeah, I
and
well, I
agree.
think
the
Val. I
Punisher.
think
Good
Val.
suggestion.
And we still might
setting
get
that up.
Sinister Six as well. That's
Oh
like
God, so many.
a possible thing.
Oh, I just
with,
thought
like,
about something
Spider-Man.
about Spider-Man. There was kind of a thing. Alfred Molina, who does play Doctor
Oh, yeah.
Spider-Man 2. I don't know if people have heard. Sorry.
Yeah, he said he was in it.
Either in trouble or running the best like
Yeah, he said
controlled
he's
week
in
of
it.
his life.
He said
Wait,
he's
what's
out,
this?
And he's de-aged.
It's
and the-
confirmed that Doc Ock's in.
Oh, he's
Doc Ock
de-aged
back.
He's in.
digitally?
Yeah, so let me go down a little tangent here. So the idea is that how Spider-Man 2 ends, he kind of falls. I forget what the device is called that he makes, but he kind of how it ends. They're in this like boathouse thing, and he's building this
Yeah,
big
like a
device.
shed on
Yeah,
the
yeah.
top.
Yeah, and he falls in it, and the idea is that he's gonna pop right into the MCU. That's how it's gonna start.
Huh.
That's how he's gonna be included in this movie. That's gonna bring him to.
Interesting.
And he was
Yeah.
the machine was like some kind of particle
Part-
accelerator
yeah.
that was going to destroy the
Oh, that
world.
makes so
He
much
might have like
sense.
opened a dimensional rift and fallen
Yup.
into.
You're specifically talking about Spider-Man 2?
Yes, he goes.
Yeah,
He's
so-
going
So-
straight from
Mike, did
Spider-Man
you
2
hear
into
this?
nowhere.
So wait, you mean they're gonna re-show this scene then? They're gonna show
I don't
the
know.
Probably.
So basically,
wouldn't be
what happened
surprised.
this week for anyone who's trying to catch up is that Alfred Molina, the actor who played Dr. Octopus, the main villain of Spider-Man 2, which came out in like 2003, way back in the day, he leaked that the Doc Ock plot line is going to pick up where it left off in Spider-Man, in the
after,
new
yeah.
Spider-Man, and it's being called a leak. Alfred Molina
Yeah,
is
he
not
said
a
it
big,
in an interview.
I mean, if
Yeah,
he
he
said
said
it,
it
it's
in-
hard.
I know,
this
yeah, I
for-
shouldn't have
I
said
feel
leak,
like
that's-
that's a
it's
controlled leak
confirmed.
that is meant to send us all spinning. I'm a little bit cynical.
This sounds a
I-
lot like Mando season
I
2.
lived
the build,
and
the
worked in
build for
Hollywood for too long. I'm very cynical when we hear a leak in something of this nature. and when we
Caliber,
know that
yeah.
information is so like when people don't know the plot lines of their own shows from week to week. I'm like, that's on purpose.
yeah, the
Alfred
build for
Molina
the
is not
Spider-Man
enough.
But
plot
how
line
exciting
has
is
been
that,
going for
though?
like a year.
Like,
But
that's
yeah,
crazy
that
to
makes
me.
It's been
sense.
huge. It's
So
been
so
huge.
basically he opened a rift and fell into our continuity, which could
Yep.
explain why this other Andrew Garfield
Feige's gonna
stuff
snap
is
him.
happening as well.
Yep.
And he is like a legend.
Feige's got
He's
the
like
Infinity
an
Gauntlet, man.
actor's
He's like
actor's
reality
Yeah,
is what I
yeah.
make.
Exactly.
Reality is what I make.
And Star Wars, apparently. Well, we'll see what
I
happens.
don't,
Allegedly.
Yeah.
I don't buy that. I don't buy that.
Do
don't
we?
think
Is
so.
there anything Star Wars like Bad Batch related we want to mention that you
Levi?
had?
New poster is pretty cool.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
new
That's all,
poster.
that's all I can think
But
of.
Palpatine's in the background, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yes, we did know that Palpatine was going to
Yeah,
be
yeah,
featured
but-
to some degree
I
because he
think
was.
it just represents the looming presence of the emerging empire. On
I
the,
we
agree.
did-
on the-
Although
So
I
wait,
do
how
feel-
much-
I think we'll get more
Levi
scenes.
and
How
Jennifer
much
were
of
talking-
this? How much of the Bad Batch do we think is going to be pre-66 and past, or is this going to be all?
30,
First
30
episode.
minutes, maybe
Yeah,
like
just the first
30 minutes.
episode.
Okay, so we think
Just-
everything is going to be after Order
I think
66, the whole
first
thing.
episode's gonna
Almost
cover the
everything.
Order 66.
Because I know obviously
Order.
Clone Wars season 7, we specifically see Order 66
Yeah.
timeline wise go
Yep.
down.
The description of the show is in the aftermath of the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
And that line alone, it's like the thing in the 6 months.
Okay,
or-
and I know you guys
That's
talked
why I
about this
think-
on
that's why I think
Kessel
it's
Run
so
yesterday.
long.
Was it yesterday? But like, how much Vader are we gonna, or do you think we're gonna see?
No,
Yeah.
that was yesterday. I
Yeah.
personally Dylan, John, and I have been talking about this.
Yeah, we've been talking about
I don't think that. I think we're expecting too much. A lot of people think this is like Clone Wars season 8, and I don't think. I think keep your expectations in check.
I'm nervous, man. I'm nervous.
I think that this is the
know,
bad
Levi, and
batch,
I
man.
don't-
I think that this is the bad batch, and there will be connections. I don't think we're
I
gonna
agree,
get
but
all these
think
plot
about like
lines.
Mando season 2, how much focus there was.
Thank you,
still on
John,
Din
yeah.
Djarin and Grogu, and yet we had all these characters that furthered the plot.
Yeah.
That furthered the plot.
And I said this where it was like
Rex
Ahsoka
is already in the
Tano
show.
is one
Rex is already
episode.
in the show.
Yeah,
It's one-
so
No, I clarified to them. Ahsoka and Rex are in it. They're going
Yeah.
to be in Bad Batch.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me. But
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
having
no.
Vader hunt them down,
We know Saw Gerrera's in it
I don't
too,
think
so.
so.
I
It's
said last week about how I don't want to see like 14 episodes of like I'm Wrecker, and then that's like, we already had like a Bad Batch arc in season 7. So if they're gonna, it's just good. This is the Bad Batch. It's like
The plot's
All right.
It's all gonna be from their perspective, anyways. Like we're not gonna
the
get
plot's
any
gonna be
side
about Crosshair who betrays them, hunting them down.
that's just a theory though, right? Because of what people are seeing
Well,
from the
It's a
The
theory,
trailer-
but no,
The trailer is.
Mike,
it's
I got some
pretty
images I can
heavily
send you.
involved.
every time they chose them together in the trailer, like Crosshair isn't there,
I can
and
send
then
you some images
basically-
of the
Yeah.
unnamed clone commander who has the same armor as Crosshair, but all
yeah,
black and the same weapon. I'm like, okay, he's sticking.
It's-
He's the
yeah.
asshole of the bunch.
Yeah.
okay,
So
yeah.
That's what I'm
even in
most
the Clone Wars
excited
arc,
for
He was
there.
kind of that outcast of the group anyway, so I think it makes sense.
It makes sense
So-
for a plot. You have
So
one
then, like
character
Vader is going to be present, but not like he's not going to be there a lot.
I think he's
I don't
gonna
think
have
he's present
scenes
at
in it.
all.
I
Oh no,
You don't think-
scenes, yes, yeah, no, but I mean like similar to Rogue One, where it's not like
Oh,
like it's a
yeah, yeah,
scene.
yeah.
It's
No,
not
well,
like
He
a.
won't be like directly in.
I think it's wasted potential not to give us some Vader.
Okay, so then it's basically, do we think then Grand Moff Tarkin
It's
is
Tarkin, yeah.
Tarkin is the main villain?
I don't think the
in the same way
Still a-
that Ben
Vader-
Mendelsohn is the main villain in Rogue One?
yeah,
kind
Vader,
of.
Vader does not
One of
warrant.
my favorite actors.
It's
the
true,
Bad Batch
but-
rather does not warrant Vader.
You don't think we'll get one little scene or like at least one appearance?
I
of
think we
Vader,
are. I
Like
mean,
at all.
I think we are.
As long
Maybe-
as I want to see Asajj Ventress at least
She's
have an
dead.
appearance.
She is
She's
dead.
dead. dead.
No, but she died around the time of Order 66.
No.
She didn't die in Clone Wars.
She died in Clone Wars, yeah.
No, she didn't.
During the Clone Wars. Trust me, man.
No, oh, I meant during the series she didn't die. She dies in
No,
Dark
she died in
Disciple.
Dark Disciple.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
During the Clone Wars, that was an arc from.
But
season seven.
when she dies in the book is like specifically like at the exact same time as Order 66. It's like
Yeah, but like the show is I think that's
It
too
shows
much.
after.
That's
It
too
shows
much.
after.
see, like
All right, listen.
I'm
I'm sorry I got to interrupt. I do have to go, but thank you everybody for the chat and thank you guys. It was great. I'm gonna
Yes.
hop
Yeah.
out of here because I have to go. But
Heavy conversation, guys. This is a
the
good one.
chat-
today.
chat, thank you guys so much. You guys have been great, and we got over 50 people here at one point. So that's
Yeah, that was
awesome.
pretty crazy.
yes,
We
thank you.
appreciate you all very much.
Yeah.
This is an amazing
Yeah.
conversation in the chat
Um,
today as well.
Yeah.
All
Yeah,
right,
actually, you
thank
know what? With
everybody.
that said, we can probably just wrap the stream up in general. Unless there's some burning stuff you guys want to talk about.
Well, no, I can just go. I'll talk to you after the show about that.
All right, guys.
Great episode.
Definitely.
Good stuff today.
Guys, thanks for joining us as usual. This was the 10th week in a row that we did this. Hopefully, we can just keep going.
Here's the
and
10 more. Yeah.
chugging away. I don't know if we're gonna have a break week between. Is Falcon Winter Soldier gonna have a break week before
Yes.
before Bad Batch?
Yeah.
We're gonna get there's gonna be 1 week where we're not gonna have crazy content, but we can still have
Yeah.
we can still speculate and
Chat.
theorize and have tons of fun. And I know Jenny's been kind of catching up on her Star Wars. She
Yeah,
hasn't.
I'm like caught up. I'm probably very honestly not gonna watch the animated shows. It's just not my thing. But I read like
Oh, you just
I know Mike's an animator. Mike's like an
Somewhere
actual
John
graphic artist
got
animator.
hurt.
It's just not my thing, but I read like extremely detailed episode by episode summaries so that I would like know who characters were when they showed up in The Mandalorian, etc. But like as far as like live action goes, I'm basically
But if you
I'm
haven't
like,
seen the
I'm
Clone
sure
Wars, you're
it's
probably not going to get much out of Bad Batch. I don't think.
Yeah,
It's
Yeah,
just-
This is
yeah,
Mike on this one.
There's like an
Probably
episode.
not.
There's like an episode guide. Like
I'm
all out
super.
there.
I'll tell you that I am super excited for the Boba Fett show, which is not happening till Christmas. But like that was by far my favorite storyline in Mandalorian. Like the
I'm
way that was
excited for that,
handled
too.
was so
That's gonna be
elegant.
awesome.
So I'm psyched for that.
All right. Well, Jenny's getting standing ovations in the chat. Thank you, Jenny. This has become the Jenny intellectual
No,
hour.
It's art. No.
I feel like I've been.
Look at John in the chat.
You see what
I'm heartbroken.
John
I
said?
told you. I'm heartbroken.
Just
I knew it.
breaking hearts and taking names all over like nerd YouTube.
You guys
Sorry,
see
guys.
check out the ranking video to see why John is so sad.
Because John puts Clone Wars
My
above
brother is
like
an
half the
animator.
original
Think how he
trilogy.
feels.
But we'll talk after the stream.
Anyway, that is one thing I'm super excited for in Bad Batch is the animation, because I know Clone Wars Season 7 was like the best animation they've done so far. So this is, I'm hoping, going to be. I mean, the Ahsoka and Darth Maul lightsaber motion capture fight is like
Beautiful.
it's never looked better than that. I don't think we're going to necessarily get anything that crazy, but
Maybe.
actually, that's a good question. Are we going to have any lightsaber battles in the Bad Batch? Maybe we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
To do a whole live
Probably
stream.
not.
Because, you know, we're going to. I don't know. Like, now I'm kind of wanting to stop the music and talk about this right now, because now I'm getting kind of curious. I'm like, I didn't think about this. Are we going to get a lightsaber
I
battle?
don't want to do it without John. Yeah.
Lightsaber on lightsaber.
John's done. No, don't talk about it without me. I'm about to come back, he says. Yeah, whatever
John's gotta quit
commitment
his
you had
job just to
couldn't have been
defend
that
Clone Wars
important.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I feel like one of the things one of the subject matters is definitely going to be like hunting down Jedi, right? Or like,
That's
there
Kenobi.
has-
I think that's Kenobi. I think we get that more in Kenobi.
because if this is like immediately post Order 66, there has to be some degree of like, you know, hunting down existing Jedi. Or no, you don't think that is?
I mean, we
I
could
think
see like the Inquisitorium. I don't know when that exactly becomes.
Because-
okay, well, I could go on a whole.
What about a Kanan Jarrus
Diet
appearance?
drive.
Like young Kanan Jarrus? Do we get that? I
Hold
know
on,
people.
like,
People would freak out.
Do we want to keep the show going? Because I can talk.
I
I'll talk
I
about
honestly
Star Wars.
don't have to go right now. So I know
I'm sorry, Chad. I know some of you may have left already, but I'm here to talk about. I don't know if you can see.
Yeah,
My
yeah.
background, but I can.
Yeah,
I
we
can
got
talk
you set
about
up.
Star Wars.
yeah, your nerd cred is there. We see it.
Yeah, I can talk about Star Wars. And part of my apprehension about Vader being in the Bad Batch is that he is busy during this time. Like, he has a pretty clearly laid out path of what he's doing right after Order 66.
It's true.
Like,
Yeah.
he is getting his red lightsaber. He is establishing the
Mm.
Inquisitorius. You know, he is with Palpatine doing evil Sith stuff. The Bad Batch, it's called the Bad Batch. I think the show is going to focus on, you know, our clone characters, what happens to the clones, dealing with that struggle, and through also
Yeah.
Crosshair. You know,
That
going against them.
Omega storyline is probably going to be
Omega
pretty
storyline.
important.
I feel
Yeah.
Like the people going, is Steve Rogers going to show up in Falcon? You're like, no, guys, that's not the story. Like, we
Yeah,
know
that's
you
not
love
the
that
point.
Yeah, I
character,
just
but like,
don't
that's not the point. That's not the story that's being told. You know?
I think Ahsoka and Rex cameos. I mean, obviously we know Rex. I think like
Those
we
make
see-
sense.
I think we see
least.
characters that are exclusively from Clone Wars, like Saw Gerrera. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, I
those-
feel like there are certain like interactions that I'm like would love. Like, let me think of an example. How about Rex and Cody? I would love
I think that's a
to
potential.
see that interaction, and it's something that people are like, that would mean so much. But like, it's like, oh, but this is about the Bad Batch, so we can't talk about that or
No,
do
I
that.
think that's way more in line with something that could happen. 'Cause
Okay, so I feel like those are
all- those are all
like-
clone characters, and Rex
like, if
right
I-
now is just, like trying to get Wolf and Gregor. We want to see how he gets to his place in Rebels. Like that
Yeah.
all flows
Yeah.
way better to me than like Vader.
So
Do you
yeah,
think
I'm cool with
Barasafi
that.
Makes sense. Like Barasafi and Ahsoka. Do you think that's a thing that could? I mean, Ahsoka's got her own book around this timeline, doesn't she?
You mean in
Yes,
order
yes.
to
There's with that though. There's wiggle room. There's more wiggle room with Ahsoka.
100%. But like, I don't know. I would love to see like Barasafi return. I feel like her story
Well,
kind of
Dave
is.
Filoni has said that Barris has a plan. Like there was a plan for her.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I think that's still in place. I mean, it makes the most sense if she becomes like Inquisitor.
Jenny
Yeah.
Jenny doesn't know who Barasafi is. See, this is why you need
I
to.
do. I read it. I told you. I read like episode by episode.
You hear that, chat? She read.
She's
She
the one who
read.
trained
She read the
Ahsoka,
Clone Wars.
right? And
She
like,
read-
it basically got her kicked out of the Jedi Order, right?
Yeah. She
She's
like
like
the Jedi
The
Order
other
with the-
Padawan who ended up being the Dark One and framed Ahsoka, right?
Classic
I
Jenny
know,
she
I
hasn't
know.
even watched the Clone Wars, and
I
she
read
knows more
that
about the Clone
description.
Wars than people who have
Because,
watched
like,
it.
becomes relevant in like the Mandalorian. There are all these characters that really originated in Clone Wars. So it was like to my benefit as much
Oh,
as
how about
anything else.
how about Cad Bane, Levi Dillon, Cad Bane?
Isn't
I
he
hope
technically
so.
dead then too? If
I
they-
hope they do that. See something
Well, if
that
Ventress
could
is
be
dead,
done.
isn't he dead too? If
No,
by
no,
the-
no.
That animatic showed Boba killing him.
Well, we don't definitively know, but also that's like fishy. Like that was an animatic of something
Yeah,
unreleased. Whereas
true,
Dark
true, yeah.
Disciple is episodes that were scripts that got published into a book. And I think that not only was that scene ambiguous, but because the Bad Batch explicitly in its description, it's like talking about the underworld. You know, we're seeing Fennec Shan. I think having Boba be in it and like dealing with Cad Bane and like that is an arc that could be adapted into the Bad Batch. Like that makes way more sense to me. Like that is a story that already laid out.
Because I know Cad Bane is like up on high on the list for a lot of people in terms of their favorite Clone Wars character.
I'm just playing devil's advocate when I'm saying.
Jenny, do you know who Cad Bane is?
I do really want to see Cad Bane.
Yeah, so I've read all about these characters.
I've read all about
I know who they are.
I've seen people say they should scrap that entirely and make him a Book of Boba character, which I
could.
Oh, so he's not dead. You mean he'd have to be really old though?
I don't think he's dead.
Because Cad Bane's already supposed to be. I know, like his species might live long. Do you know how? Is it a Doro? Is that what he is? Duros. Yeah. Do we know how long they live? Dylan,
I think
I'm on it.
It's more than
because Cad Bane's already supposed to be kind of like an old dude in the Clone Wars, right? Like he's still a badass, but he's like he's been around a while.
He was a well-respected bounty hunter by even when like Darth Maul was an apprentice to. Darth
they have like humanoid lifespans. It seems like.
I think it's. There's probably not definitive information.
No, there's not. But from what I saw, it said their middle age was around 50 to 60. So.
Anyway, I just feel like if Cad Bane does show up in the Book of Boba Fett, he'd have to be like old Cad Bane. Yeah,
it's true.
I think seeing a
because Jenny and I were talking the other day about how we could make the Bo-Katan timeline work, and I'm like, well, they never specify her age in Clone Wars, but Bo-Katan could easily be like 17, 18
for the age that she 20 in Clone Wars for it to make sense that it's still Katie Sackhoff.
Yeah, if she's 18 in the Clone Wars, she'd be like approaching 50 in Mando, and that would still
she doesn't seem 18. She seems
yeah, she does.
Like mid. Really?
Yeah.
Does
Molly,
she?
Yeah.
Molly from Star Wars Explained had a really good point where the Mandalorians wear helmets all the time, so they're
she'd have great skin. Yeah.
Because you look at her in Obi-Wan, I mean, there's clearly an age difference there.
Yeah.
There was like a really funny meme going around of like Joel Edgerton versus Owen Lars from New Hope, and someone was like, only 19 years have passed, and there's that whole retcon of like they have two sons. That's why.
Yeah, Tatooine. Yeah.
That's why Obi-Wan's such like looks so much older. Yeah. And that's fair.
I think getting a resolution for any of these arcs is for Clone Wars specific characters, like something like Cad Bane, or having, like you said, a Cody and Rex interaction. Like that makes more sense to me. I just don't think.
Think about like I'm thinking about that right now. I'm thinking about like Cody and Rex and how like that has to, because we don't specifically see Cody die at any point, right? We don't obviously we know he dies eventually, but like it would be great to have like, what if Rex has to kill Cody, bro?
There are plans for him.
I think that Cody, yes, there were. I think Cody in Kenobi makes more sense.
Oh, okay, because Jenny and I were talking about this the other day too, about how Tamura Morrison's perfect age for Mandalorian because Boba Fett doesn't age fast, but he would also be perfect age for Kenobi to play a clone.
Right.
Yeah, because of so they'd have to do like the bearded version of Rex. But
honestly, the thing that makes me sad is that I wasn't around to cover the Mandalorian with you. I can't even
actually,
remember
you know what?
before I came back to the East Coast, but like I have so much to say about that show, like that actually falls within my academic area of expertise, and I love that show so much, and I'm excited to continue covering that and those characters like Boba Fett, etc. That's what I'm saying.
I was thinking that we don't actually might not need to see Rex and Cody, because we did, I think, what the role Jesse played in the Siege of Mandalore arc.
Yeah, I think
was kind of the similar, like
same thing. It'd be the same story.
He's had his chip removed and Jesse hasn't, and they have to reconcile with it, like, you know, and obviously Jesse ends up dying.
I think Cody, it's sad. I think Cody, in relation to Obi-Wan, has more of a emotional resonance.
Because he's specifically the clone you see Cody like interacting with in
It's hard to make Kenobi predictions because we don't know how much we're going off Tatooine, and we don't know how. I don't know. There's a lot.
They did not announce Tamura Morrison for the Kenobi show, but they probably wouldn't want to, right?
They didn't announce Liam Neeson either.
Yeah, exactly, right.
Yeah.
If he's not in it,
oh, bro, Qui-Gon, yes, dude. Oh my God.
Okay, there was a. Can I say something? Because there's been this whole thing. I know some of us on this panel also watch Star Wars Theory, but people on other streams, I'll just say, saying that like Liam Neeson doesn't know what's going on in Star Wars and that he probably won't be back for Kenobi. And I'm like, whether you like it or not, the guy was in The Rise of Skywalker. Like, he recorded lines. Like, people are saying that he forgot Star Wars. I'm like, they didn't just drug the man and put him in a closet or like say the lines, Liam. Like, he
Also,
signed
he's
a contract.
probably supposed to say that he's
like,
not. Like,
and yeah, and like, why would he say he's in it? Like, he's definitely in it. It makes so much sense. Like, it's such an easy inciting incident for Obi-Wan, for Qui-Gon to say,
100%.
Hey, you maybe a promise to train the boy. Go fix this, go try, and then fail, and then that's why you are where you are in the original trilogy. It makes way more sense that he is. It's such an easy inciting incident. That's like.
And doesn't that new book say that it's 10 years later?
Before. Yeah,
10 years
it's like,
specifically. Obi-Wan,
and it's set up in Revenge of the Sith. Like, Yoda's like, more training for you.
Oh wait, Dylan. I asked you last week, but Levi, how do you feel about
Shade against Liam Neeson.
What do you think about a potential Grogu appearance in the Bad Batch?
Well, it seems to be heavily rumored at this point.
I think from Disney's like money making standpoint, like duh, put him in there.
It seems like a lot.
He's their golden child, baby. Look at him. Look at that guy.
I think Mike's son, a baby.
I just but I think because part of the Grogu storyline, like, because at the end of Mandalorian season 2, when you see R2-D2 come out from behind Luke, and it's like, oh my god, R2, and but then you see Grogu and R2 interact, and there's that little moment of like, wait,
do they know each other?
Do they know each other? Yeah, exactly. So that's not clarified at all.
About that is that
I think that
taken either way. It can be like, oh, it's just the two cutest.
Yeah, they're just being like, hey, we can be friends, or it's like, I remember you.
Back later, you know?
I think that Yoda, or rather R2, would recognize a Yoda-like species because he spent a lot of time around Yoda.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that could explain it too.
Okay, anyway, it doesn't change the fact that like the whole like Ahsoka talks about Grogu, speaking to her like through the Force about like his about the temple and all that. So I'm like, we've currently had no evidence of Grogu up until Ahsoka mentioning what he told her. So this would be their opportunity to like show what happened to Grogu, because we may not get stories told in this era ever again.
I think we will get that scene.
Your Yoda impression is going over big in the chat. Everybody wants more.
Okay, well, it's real hit or miss.
Yoda. Frank Oz impression.
I don't need to throw shade at Liam Neeson. I saw someone say that.
Wait, were we throwing shade at Liam Neeson?
I meant more that other people threw shade at him for not knowing what Star Wars was.
Oh, yeah.
Like, dude, he was in Episode 9. Like, he knows.
Did you guys see this interview with Mads Mikkelsen, who, like, of course we know him from Rogue One, but he wasn't speaking about Rogue One. He was speaking about something else, probably Hannibal stuff. But he gave this interview where he said, "I am simply not online."
I wish.
Yeah.
Like, he's constantly trending. Like, Will Graham Hannibal stuff is constantly trending, and he was like, I don't know, I am simply not online.
So, Mike, like, I know you've seen the animated shows, and I just think that Bad Batch is going to be more akin in plot structure to something like Rebels than it is to Clone Wars. And Clone Wars, with the arc structure, you could have those multiple plot lines a lot easier, whereas in like with something like this, and I think Rebels, you had to really organically tie every new thing into the pre-existing like main plot to make it all flow.
Yeah.
And I think that the clones running away from the Empire, defecting, being part of the underworld, having Crosshair and the Empire hunt them, like I have a hard time seeing how that plot line flows into some of this other larger stuff that's going on in the Star Wars world.
Well, it's important to note, like, it's gonna, like, I agree with you, because it's gonna be from the Bad Batch's perspective. It's not like Clone Wars, where we get these arcs from characters who don't really interact with like Anakin and Obi-Wan, or they do, but like we can see from their perspective. Like, I think it's really all gonna be, every character we see is gonna be related to the Bad Batch in some way, or they're gonna be talking with the Bad Batch or in a similar scene.
So like, if you like, I was thinking about the other day, if you try to like, who is the, like, if someone asked you who's the main character of the Clone Wars, you'd be like, oh well, there's like 10 main characters, but like the real answer is like you basically are seeing it through Ahsoka's eyes and Rex's eyes. Ahsoka and Rex are kind of like the main, like, obviously like Anakin and Obi-Wan and like they're all
Anakin and Obi-Wan and Padme are like the big three of the prequel trilogy, and so you also have to like. They're also kind of the main characters.
In terms of the Clone Wars, like,
certainly
you basically have to be like
season, Ahsoka and Rex.
Ahsoka Ahsoka and Rex are the main characters. So I'm like, coming into the Bad Batch, it's like, all right, well then, like, who's the main character? Is it going to be this Omega character? Who's going to be like, whose eyes are we going to be seeing this through? Who's going to be like the visual narrator of the Bad Batch, essentially? You know what I mean?
I think Omega is that character. She's
that's what I was thinking.
The
like,
Bad Batch, yeah.
Okay, so we're going to be like viewing everything from that character's perspective, essentially, because it's not like.
She's got a lot of potential, that character. I'm really excited to see what they do with her. At first, I was like, because kid characters, you know how they can be.
Or them, we don't know that we don't know that it's our.
It's she by the subtitles.
It is a she. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's understandably confusing, right? Because I think it's a female clone of a man.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what my theory is, and that's what seems to be the leading theory. I mean, it's all set up to be.
Well, it's all in the name. It's Omega.
Yeah,
Alpha is the
Omega,
first.
and the first
Omega
one,
is the last, and I think she's the last clone.
Yeah, see, Lincoln in the chat is asking, does anyone who the little boy in the trailer is? So we're like, that's who we're talking about. It's a girl, and her name is Omega, but that's why some people are like, oh, maybe it's a they them kind of character.
Understandably.
The importance of making her a kid, I think, is that they can potentially use her in future projects as well. Like, I'm talking like Filoni-verse era stuff. Yeah. Which could be pretty cool to see.
I mean, one of the plot lines in the Clone Wars is about how Jango Fett's DNA is sort of being stretched and running low, and that the clones, like the efficiency of the cloning process is lessening. And I think that having this, maybe it's a mutation, maybe it's a last-ditch attempt to try and save the DNA, but having this female attempt be like the last one and it ended, and they're like, and that connects her, because all these Bad Batch guys, they're the Bad Batch, they're these mutants, that connects her and being like this unique clone where they're all from the same person, but they all have very different perspectives. Yeah. Very different.
They wouldn't be Clone Force 99 with a non-clone walking around with them,
Exactly.
I mean, yeah. So.
And I think part of this goes deep into theories, but on very, very complicated. On the Hasbro Black Series Elite Squad Trooper description, it describes them as conscripts, and like the first wave to show that it's like something like stormtroopers are more efficient than clones. And I think the story of Crosshair, this mutant clone, leading a bunch of conscripts who are in reality less independent than these clones of actual people, who are supposed to be this same like monotone, they're all the same guy, and then it ends up being that this empire system is what really makes you this cold uniform thing. I think having them hunt the Bad Batch with Omega, I think that thematically it's just too strong of a thing to pass up. Like, it fits with the story of the clones. It just makes too much sense, and I think that restricts the plot, not necessarily a bad way. I still think it's going to be a good narrative, but it restricts it from expanding into all of these other sort of narratives from Clone Wars.
That's fair.
Yeah. And do you think we're pretty much safe bet that we're going to go back to Kamino?
Oh, we see it in the trailer, yeah.
Oh, we do see it in the trailer, yeah. So we're going to get
episode 1.
We're going to get Tonwi.
She's in the trailer, yeah. And
she's in the trailer. How did I maybe I just did not pay enough attention during the trailer. I think it's because so many people go in and like break down trailers and like frame by frame it. I literally watch it once and just like,
That was cool.
Yeah. I didn't even see Rex the first time I watched the trailer, and people were like,
I saw your reaction. I was like, you gonna say something?
You see him for half a second. They blatantly did not. Yeah.
I mean, a part of me surprised they didn't save him for like this big reveal, but another part of me is like, oh well, who knows how big of a role he's gonna have in the Bad Batch.
And that's why I think something like Ventress just can't work. Like, I understand, yes, it is around her death is around.
I'm so bummed too, because we never got closure on her story in the animations, and she was one of my favorite
characters. I would love to see Dark Disciple animated.
Yeah, still seeing 100%. So what about Quinlan Voss? Isn't dead though? Do we see him?
Quinlan Voss is not dead. He could be. He is a character that I
would love that. Okay, because even if he shows up and mentions her name, I will go ape shit.
Quinlan Voss appearing.
Because if he's
he fits the Bad Batch vibe.
Particularly if he mentions her in the light of like losing somebody that he loved, kind of thing. Like, that would be like, I would accept that as like a Ventress storyline closure, because then you would at least sort of like on the sidelines hear about how she like went good and fell in love with Quinlan Voss and all that. But
Dark Disciple is such a good.
I agree though that I don't think it's gonna happen just for.
But Quinlan himself, as confirmed by the Vader comics, is still alive. He is on the list of Jedi.
So I mean, like, Quinlan is. So you got Quinlan Voss. You have potentially Cal Kestis. You have potentially Kanan Jarrus.
You mentioned Kanan before. And his story is pretty tied up during this time too in the Kanan comic. It was a really good comic, by the way. but he is occupied going from Caleb Doom to Kanan Jarrus. He's becoming that identity at this time.
Okay, we don't get to see any of that though. You don't. That's the.
No. I mean, the story is it covers almost.
So it seems honestly, then it seems very unlikely that we're going to see any lightsaber other than Vader's, probably.
Ahsoka's. I think Ahsoka.
Oh,
she wouldn't
Yeah.
have him yet. She would have
Yeah.
no lightsaber at this point in time.
Yeah.
She would have buried
That's
the blue
true,
ones,
that's
and she wouldn't
true.
have the white ones yet. 'cause
Yeah,
she's
this
still
was
there.
actually something we talked about
Well,
before about how in
she
Dark
buried
in
one of the blue ones, right?
no
I
in
thought-
in the novels she buries both of them. In
Well-
Clone Wars, you see her drop one. So I was like, when that came out, I was like, that's inconsistent with the book. But
Clone
that's
Wars is kind of
they don't always have match perfectly.
But they
between
didn't
the
match
books and the-
perfectly in the Siege of Mandalore either.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
And not
there
everybody
was,
reads the books, not everybody
Jenny
is gonna-
mentioned this. Jenny mentioned this earlier to pull you back into the conversation with like the dark hold
Thanks.
from the dark hold from
Mhm,
Agents,
from Agents
of
of
Shield
S.H.I.E.L.D.
to WandaVision. I said was similar to Cobb Vanth from the book to
Right.
Mandalorian,
Right.
where
Right.
the story
Character
is
was so
large.
great.
The story is largely the same, and it hits all the
Yeah.
main beats, and it still fits. But it's like not
Mike and I
exactly
were
the same.
actually talking about Cobb Vanth this week because just like Tim Oliphant was so good. And
He's
that
amazing.
that episode was amazing in general. But like it's a similar thing where it's like you don't even really need to retcon it. Like you can make sense of it. They hit
Yeah,
enough of the
yeah.
same
The same beats. Yeah.
like beats exactly that like it all exists in the same sort of philosophical universe.
And I
Like,
think they
you
did
know.
that with Ahsoka, and I think her dropping the one lightsaber, I think she lost it in the fight. In the,
Yeah. Okay.
Oh,
I think
okay.
that's what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When she sort of flies out, I think she loses one.
Yeah.
In the
I-
book,
gains
she's
the-
building her lightsaber.
in the book, she's also mentions how the blades
She
are
gained-
green.
Yes,
Which
that-
is
that got
also- yeah.
changed too.
Yeah.
She gains the white ones at the end of the book.
Of the book,
She's
yeah.
been scrapping metal the whole
She
time.
kills the Inquisitor and
Yeah,
uses
she-
the Inquisitor's
she
stones
bleeds
to.
or like
yeah.
purifies the blood
So cool.
crystals. of
Such
the
a-
Inquisitor and turns
Such a
it
cool concept, and that's how the white blade is made. Yeah, when you
But-
purify red.
I guess though the Ahsoka novel takes place over like a certain amount of time because she's supposed to be like living on another planet for like
Yeah,
a
it
little
takes place
while.
within,
and-
like a year.
Yeah. Okay. So we may or may
That's
not
why I
see
said-
her
that's
with
why I said earlier-
lightsabers.
That's why I said earlier. There's some wiggle room with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It could be like.
And I think like just from a visual like Disney standpoint, they don't want to have Ahsoka and then like have her not have lightsabers. Like they'll probably have her lightsabers at that point when she does show up, because then she would just feel incomplete. I feel like.
But on that point though, with Vader too, they can't meet. You know, there can't be a clash between them.
Yes.
They don't see each other
Right.
until Rebels.
Yeah.
So I don't think we're seeing lightsaber on. I mean, you bring up you mentioned Barris, and I think maybe Barris. I don't know. To me, that
Barriss.
complicates the Bad Batch narrative too much. I think the show needs to
Right.
focus on the clones
It's
and
gonna
how
be
the
Bad Batch.
Empire and the subtext about the show is the Empire rising and how it affects the galaxy. You know,
Yeah.
and how
It's just so hard to envision any Star Wars property without lightsabers in it. You know, it's just one of
Sure.
those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything's been lightsaber. Even
So that's
like
why you're
Rogue-
like, oh, we're gonna maybe see Vader cutting up some shit with some saber,
Rogue One
but
and even Solo. I mean, we get
Mando
some
Mando
lightsabers.
season 1, we get the dark saber at the very end, but for the most
Yeah.
of that,
Right.
most of that show, you don't get anything. And I think
And like correct me if I'm wrong here, but like it hasn't been clarified how the Darksaber got into Giancarlo Esposito's hands in the first
Not
place,
at
right?
all,
Like
no,
there's
there's a
still
lot of-
story to
well
be
during the
told.
purge. It's
Yeah, I
during
know,
the-
but-
Right, but
during
like
the
you don't know
purge,
the
but-
specifics of
No,
like
you
how he
don't know
got
the
his
specifics.
hands on the
yeah,
Darksaber, right? Like,
Levi,
that's
I
why they still have
specifically, yeah,
scope-
I specifically
scope
said how like
for-
Bo-Katan is still alive in Mandalorian, and like, but they're talking about how like they would have had to like defeat somebody in battle. So like
well, I can explain.
he
that.
would
I
have
think-
he would have
I-
had
I
to
think
defeat
the-
her in battle and then leave her alive, basically.
Well,
Right.
I think it's a situation where like, and I think a lot of this is because there's a
Sabine Wren handed Bo-Katan the saber. She didn't need to fight. to get it.
Exactly, and that's when, and at that moment is when the revolt, like the Mandalorian rebellion, begins. Then in between then and where we see them in Mando, that's when the purge is. So they lose, right? They lose everything. Mandalore is turned even more into glass. Bad stuff. But because Bo-Katan took it in that way and probably failed to rally Mandalore, you know, she
Yeah.
lost. I think that really affected her. And
So
she's
you
like,
think she gave
I
up the
can't-
saber and then
lose
and
it
then
without losing it to someone specifically,
Well,
you can like lose a larger battle, and that counts as like
specifically like what's the event where he takes it off of her hands yet somehow
probably
she's
during-
still
during
alive?
some well, my point was, I think I'll get back to that. But in Mandalorian, why she's abiding by the rule of like you have to fight someone for it because she
Is
tried
because
to
of that.
not do
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it
yeah.
didn't
Oh,
work, and it
okay.
didn't
Yeah, I know.
work.
That
You know,
I
she's
get,
like-
yeah.
more of like a samurai code type of thing.
Yeah, and she
not
broke the
like,
code. She broke the code.
She doesn't want to break the code a second
Yeah.
time.
Well,
Yeah,
she's
she
also
broke it
only
and
a
she lost.
ruler.
Okay,
She's
so wait a
also only
minute.
ruler. if
like,
the other Mandalorians accept her. You know?
So then basically then you're agreeing then that maybe Giancarlo Esposito or Moff Gideon, he doesn't care about the story. He just cares that
he's just
not
manipulated.
at all.
So he didn't earn it. He fucking just took it.
I
And
think he was probably, he was the Moff of that.
and
whatever
he's
sector
in Mandalorian. He's just like gleeful in the fact that she does have to follow the rules now.
Yes.
So
He's
yeah,
kinda
okay,
like Zemo
all right.
in a way.
I think they were a little messy with
Totally.
being unclear about that. Yeah.
He's kind of
Yeah,
like
I
Zemo,
think-
where he's just kind of
I
in
think
the
the
background,
implication, though,
mastermind kind of
the
guy.
implication though is that because Bo-Katan failed to lead the
Yeah.
revolt, it has affected her so much so that she needs to win it this way, and she's so
Oh,
driven
man.
to try and get it back.
Which all
That's
further.
interesting though, because it also makes her like a responsible leader. She's not just going to seize power or this like symbol of power because it's available to her or being
I don't
offered.
know, I
Like
think-
offered.
I
She
think
wants
she
to like
is.
earn the right to lead
Well,
people, right?
I
Here's
think
here's
she is. I think this is a Sharon Carter situation, but
I
it's
th-
different because she started. Bo-Katan started bad, then she's like anti-hero, then kind of good, and I think her experience over the past 9 years between where we last saw her and Mando have made her pushed her to be maybe bad again.
But it
A
can
bit of
also
a-
be like seen as a type of like recovery. Like we've talked a lot about like Bucky's recovery being a 12-step thing. It can also be like, I'm not gonna like go back to the dark side or back to the,
True,
to the
true.
side of evil by like repeating the same mistakes
Jenny,
again.
I don't mean to, because I know you've read the Clone Wars, but a lot of this
Just
has
read,
to
I
deal
have
with
not watched.
a lot of this has to deal with her relationship to Satine and her sister, and
Right, her
the
sister,
pacifist-
right?
and the pacifist
Yep.
nature of Mandalore, and that whole like they
Right.
tried something else, and like I understand what you're saying about like the cultural, like she's trying to do it the right way, but what she's also doing, it's not really. We've seen it in Clone Wars. It's not really good either. Like it's pretty
Right.
messed
Right.
up.
Yeah.
Like
Well, a bit of a theme of what we kind of
ambivalence.
saw in season 2 of Mandalorian with Mando and his weird traditions, and that I think we're going to see in season 3 is them kind of having to accept that Mandalore, the old way of Mandalore, is a little messed up and not everything is right. Like Mando, he takes his helmet off at the end there. Like that's him almost sort of abandoning his crazy zealous ways, or at least like how Bill Burr kind of puts it is like when the
love that
going gets
conversation.
tough.
Love that conversation.
it's-
whether you're from Alderaan or
good.
Mandalorian, and both are gone.
Yeah.
Right.
Amazing
But so
conversation.
she might have a similar thing where Mando's like keeps trying to give it to her and she's like, no, this is the only way to do it. And I mean, I don't know, we might kind of explore that a little bit in
Yeah.
season 3 of just
So
culturally
basically,
changing.
are you thinking that they're gonna end up fighting each other at one point, or that she's gonna end up like being like, you know what? No, like
I hate to evoke Game of Thrones because I personally
Yeah.
am not a fan of how it ended.
Me
but-
neither.
But
Nobody is. Like literally
I think-
nobody is.
I think it might be a situation where, the Iron Throne is destroyed. Like the source of the conflict. I think that's a resonant theme. Like the source of what is causing all these people crazy. That's the real root of the problem.
yeah. Well,
And so I think like a destruction of the Darksaber, like Din's like, dude, you gotta let this
Mm.
go.
I think
yeah.
one
Ruining
other
our people.
one
Get
other
rid of it.
consideration I think that is another possibility. We did wrap up the Grogu storyline essentially in Mandalorian, and now we're looking forward to more Mandalore stuff. But Grogu is gonna still be a subject matter, whether or not he's present like he has been, obviously. And I think one thing that might come into play is that like they might be like the Darksaber. Yeah, it's a Mandalorian like artifact, but it's also a Jedi weapon, and it was created by
Yeah,
a
it represents
Jedi.
Tar
And-
Vizsla's like
yeah,
the union
and
between
it-
Jedi and Mandalorian.
So like maybe they might come to like terms with like, you know what, this does belong in the hands of a Mandalorian, but it also belongs in the hands of a Jedi. Therefore, Grogu might be the one that
Either way, I think it ends with a fundamental reevaluation.
because you need a
of what that
Mandalorian who's
sword
also a
means.
Jedi. Yeah,
Right.
well, I think it would be cool to eventually have Grogu be the one that ends
no,
up.
I- yeah, no, I
but that's a
agree with you.
perfect reason for why Ben Solo or why Kylo Ren won't kill Grogu when he kills all of Luke's students or whatever. It's because Grogu will off be being the Mandalore.
For
Right.
me, on that particular point, there's so much time. There's over 20 years between when Luke takes him and when
Grogu will be
falls.
70, not 50, and maybe
Yeah,
he'll be
like,
ready to take on his.
Are you,
Yeah.
Yoda says in Return of the Empire that when 900 years old you
Yeah.
are, or like, and he's been training Jedi for 800 years.
Yeah.
So by age 100, he was good. So
Oh yeah.
in Grogu's
Right.
next 50 years, he's gonna have a growth spurt, big
Yeah.
old growth
Yeah,
spurt.
yeah.
I think
That
by age 70,
video-
I think he's all good. I think he's all good to go.
So you like that idea then that maybe Grogu becomes Mandalore down the road?
Yeah, I think because
That's a
he's
great
a
idea.
Jedi, he's he's
Yeah.
the Force.
And that's the way that like Bo-Katan and Din don't have to kill each other. They like you know what, this This needs to be a Jedi holding
I
this
think that
weapon.
is just
That's actually
silly
a really
enough,
good theory.
but also wholesome enough to work in Star Wars.
Because there's
Right.
all these non-Jedi wielding this Jedi weapon. It just doesn't make sense.
Well, Mando
That's
also
a
says
really
to
good
Grogu,
theory.
like, I promise I'll see you again. Like,
Yeah.
they're not going to let him break that promise.
Yeah,
We're gonna
everyone
see
wants to see
and
Grogu in the
Mando.
helmet too. They want to
Yeah.
see a
Mike, I
Grogu
think-
Mando
I think
helmet.
I think Grogu as Mandalore is a much longer term.
Yeah.
reality.
Oh yeah. But
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
I think you're right. The key
MCU long game style, buddy.
This is
Like,
true.
yeah.
Yeah, I think just that the key thing is that by the end of the show, I think what needs to happen is the Mandalorians have to fundamentally reevaluate what the dark saber means to them, and whether that means destroying it or giving it to a Jedi or something, because that's the cause of the strife. So that's what's gonna.
I mean, I would love for the Mandalorian, like as a series, to end with like that's how it ends, with Grogu
Yeah.
lifting the dark saber above his head and having all of Mandalore like
Yeah, we
hailing
almost got
him.
that.
like
We
I mean,
almost
we
got
have-
that too.
What
He
an
still has the-
image! Can you
He's forcing it.
imagine? That's a
Be amazing.
great.
He still
like,
has the
idea.
pendant. I mean, like, it's kind of like there already, you know?
We
He's-
did
he's
see-
a
we saw-
Mandalorian by
we saw
Mandalorian
Bo-Katan
standards.
Yeah.
do it in Rebels. Bo-Katan lifts the dark saber when Sabine gives it to her, and all the Mandalorians are there. Like, you know, I would love to see
I
that.
was just saying we saw Grogu like trying to use the dark saber against.
Oh
Gideon.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's true.
I think you're onto something with the.
Oh my God! And I just remembered. Oh no, I'm sorry, dude. Because there was what I thought was blatant foreshadowing to a later season, where the thing that Gideon says, he walks up to with the darksaber, and then he says, "Oh,
You're not old enough yet.
yeah." Well, Grogu's trying to like grab the darksaber from him, and he
Yeah.
says, "Like, careful, you might poke someone's eye out with that, or something like that." I'm like, "Oh, that's foreshadowing. Grogu's gonna cut Gideon's
And
eye
he
out
also-
with
yeah,
the
he also
saber."
says like not yet. Like he's like soon you'll get this.
Right, yeah. That's I
'Cause
had a lot of theories.
Din Djarin let Gideon live, but Grogu will be the one to take him out eventually. I think that
Ooh,
would be fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's crazy stuff.
They're gonna have to
There's
come up
also
with
such
all
a-
new
there's such
technology to make a
storyline
teenage
about- there's such
Yoda
an
too.
ongoing storyline in the Mandalorian about like how you can go either light or dark depending on your influences, and they explore this constantly, that like, you know, Grogu needed to be saved. He's supposed to be a Jedi, but also he sees a lot of violence in his travels with the Mando. He sees like people getting just wiped out, and that baby is absorbing all of those messages. This is like a
Did
like
you
a-
see him like take those
something that-
stormtroopers and like smash them together? Like yeah, like
that,
Yeah.
he's got this like very tenuous balance between light and dark, because he is absorbing both influences at this tender age. So that is potentially like, you know, this thing of like the Mandalorian might not have killed you outright, but like I'm not him. I do things my own way. Like, you know, I can imagine
Right.
that being like a callback to like, I learned to do things a different way. Like this is
So-
who I am.
and another like top-notch Mandalorian character we haven't talked about is Sabine, and I think it's safe to bet to say that we're gonna
She's
eventually
gonna be in Ahsoka.
she's gonna be in the Ahsoka
Yeah,
series.
yeah.
And it's gonna be like Sabine and Ahsoka looking for Ezra via Thrawn.
And that's sort
basically.
of a point I wanted to make about like if the Mandalorian as a show, as an entity, like brand, specifically the Mandalorian, was done. Like if season 2 was the cap of the Mandalorian, and from now on we're just getting all these different shows that will continue its story. Like the story is still very much going on, but the finale of season 2 could be like a close in the book of the chapter, right? Because they're by chapters, and now we're getting the book of Boba
The
Fett. and
book of Boba.
it's
Yeah.
rumored
Yeah.
that Din is going to be in that, and he's probably going to be like, "Hey, you want to come help me with Mandalore? Like you're a Mandalorian, I need other Mandalorians." There's just a lot of like I could see now that Grogu is gone, and that could be in like a Luke show or an animated thing, or like obviously they're going to continue Grogu's storyline. And Ahsoka is a thing, and like how sure are we that specifically? I think the story is too big for just one show, and I think that's what's happening.
Well, yeah,
Right.
I think we're
the whole
beyond-
Gina Carano situation kind of messed with the whole Rangers of the New Republic,
Rangers,
because
yeah.
that was going to be that extra show, and what's his name? That one Asian X-wing pilot, like that we saw in the Mandalorian. What's
Carson
that character?
Teva.
Carson Teva.
Yeah,
Yeah, like we were expecting to see him maybe lead that group.
From what I hear, Hera is the one replacing.
Yes,
cool,
dude.
which is cool.
yes. Oh my gosh, like Hera, like probably like out of the Ghost crew, that's probably other than Kanan, like Hera's probably people's favorite character.
And she
from
has
the-
her son now. Force sensitive, like.
Dude, yeah, and Jason Syndulla. I'm surprised. Like I was convinced that Jason Syndulla was gonna.
He's been getting some mentions recently.
Like he was on my short list of the like what ended up being Luke, but it was like of the people were like, oh, it could be Kyle Katarn, it
But
could
he
be all
would
these, and I'm like,
he would be like 5.
Yeah, he would be very.
No, but I mean that to me made sense of the like, oh, like this little baby creature is reaching out
and
in
he
the
shows up with
force.
his mom. Okay.
Or no, if Hera, and it would just make sense if Yoda was paired. If Yoda was paired with like a Jedi that was like his age or whatever, but
or at least active. How do we think Grogu's gonna talk, man? That's what I'm interested in. When he does talk.
It's such a delicate thing. Like, how do you like maintain?
I don't think they're gonna address it for
Yoda without like.
It may have like, you know what? That's a good question, because the species in general you would think would have similar like vocal patterns,
like weird grammar, like Yoda does, putting things back.
And we never hear Yaddle talk. Yaddle. How do you say it?
Someone brought it up the other day, but there's a character. The name is escaping me, but in Knights of the Old Republic, who is of the same species, and they speak normally.
Right.
Oh.
That.
Well, also like,
were they
it's kind of like an accent,
or were they raised by somebody else on somebody else's planet?
Disney just goes crazy and gets like Kevin Hart or some shit with some, or like they just get some, somebody that you just not expecting. Like, I know.
I think that the question is totally dodged. I think they just kick that can down the road. We do not see that adds a whole nother layer.
I've seen theories that he could be a mute. It just given the trauma in his life. He just
that's true, because
that's totally believable. That's totally plausible.
I mean, yeah, it would be a great, and then they can still keep him. I mean, he can't be a grown man and have like a deep voice and be cute, in my opinion. You know what I mean? But they can keep him like Yoda-esque and like doing.
Well, and plus they totally play in the Ahsoka episode. They totally played up the thing of like they can communicate telepathically, even though he's still basically just a baby. Like there's plenty of space to explore that as he comes into his powers, right?
Listen, man,
I mean, he's a traumatized kid, you know.
If they can make Geode work, they can make a.
Jenny,
it doesn't seem like Geode worked, man.
Jenny, just so you know, some new Star Wars novels, there's a character that is literally just a rock.
He's a Vintian, man. He's a rock.
It's literally a rock. And
he's all right. You know what? Geode's all right in my.
He's golden, man. He's hilarious. All the characters are like, "Is that just a rock?" And they're like, "Is it?" It's excellent.
I haven't read any of the new novels. Are they really like that, or like
everyone doesn't believe that it's a real thing. Like none of the characters. It's a joke.
Okay, so they actually like play it as a joke in the book too.
It's like if we want to talk about the state of the fandom, people.
I don't want to.
Like it's way overblown.
Yeah. I don't want to go there.
He's a minor joke character.
He's not like holding a lightsaber or anything. He's just a rock in a seat.
Yeah, it's not like Disney's like writing the success of their entire everything on this one rock character. Yeah.
Oh, Chewbacca's a giant talking dog. Come on.
Yeah, bro. I know. Unbelievable.
Hilarious.
I do want to say, like, I know this is great. We haven't ever really talked this much Star Wars on this live, but I do want to say
I'm an honorary all new nerd.
Okay, yeah, man. This was
you're officially the third member of All New Nerds. So
over the past few weeks, we've spent like. Probably
but you're West Coast, so like no matter what you say, you're not actually like part of the team. Sorry.
It's, I'm a West Coast.
We were the East Coast Avengers until you.
Yeah.
I feel like I toe both lines because I moved home recently, but I was in LA for 9 years, so like I can play for both teams.
Yeah, honorary. There you go. All right. Anyway, I'm gonna wrap the stream up now because I have to go do some shit too. But I want to save a lot of this Bad Batch talk for our interim week between Falcon and Bad Batch.
I'm always willing to talk Star Wars. I was trying to say over in the All New Nerds.
Maybe somebody will.
About Star Wars over the past
we go on for like business calls, I guess, or just being like, what are we gonna do this next week?
And we just talk about Star Wars for like 3 hours.
Nice.
We basically could just hit record there and. We had a month's worth.
Maybe somebody will get Jenny's GoFundMe going and get her to watch the Clone Wars before Bad Batch, so that there's we can get Jenny in on some of these conversations too. But Levi, definitely thank you for joining us, man, and I'm hoping you'll come back.
Everybody, welcome Levi to the fold. It's great to have you here this week.
Oh wait, is this John is back? Sorry for having to leave early, guys, but that was great. Okay, so John, you got to listen. Good. Sorry, I hope you didn't have FOMO.
Fired from his job, man. John's just sitting there on his phone the whole time.
Yeah.
John will pay me to watch Clone Wars.
Jenny, put your Venmo in quick before we end.
I know.
Screenshot that. Yeah. But yeah, no, that'll be great. Levi, I hope you'll come back and join us again for some live.
I appreciate that, but I am a member of the All New Nerds. I am actually part of the I will be back.
Well, no, that I know, but I also schedules conflicting and COVID and people are busy and all that.
I just think it's funny.
We've been pretty consistently every week, Saturday, every Saturday at 3 p.m. we do this, and hopefully that'll be consistent into the future. I myself have my own scheduling conflicts, and
thank you for having me on.
This was great. I love talking about this.
To the chat. I am actually on All New Nerds. You will see me on the channel.
He's here, yeah.
I am on the channel, guys.
He's officially an All New Nerd.
All New Nerds yet, folks in the chat, go over to their channel and subscribe and watch their content, including Levi.
Does Jenny is Jenny an honorary All New Nerds as well? We're all new nerds.
I'm an employee of Jedi Jive, guys.
No, Jenny and I are Jenny and I are old ass used nerds.
Yeah,
you guys.
We're not new nerds at all. We are very secondhand nerds at this point. Yeah.
No, you know what I actually did and then one of the I know I'm saying we're gonna end the stream and I can just keep going, but I did hit up all the nerds because you guys are younger guys and I like having a little bit of a. It's nice being able to talk to younger people and have like a little bit of an age discrepancy where we can have.
That's what attracted me to the brand of All New Nerds, of it representing a new era of nerdery coming out into this new stuff. And I want to be
there you go, man. Yeah. So guys, everybody in the chat.
New nerd blood going.
By the way, Mandy Sherrod, I don't know if you're still there. Yes, she is. Mandy, thank you.
My champion.
Mandy is also my top tier Patreon supporter. Thank you, Mandy.
Yeah. Mandy is awesome.
You are awesome, Mandy. We love you, and we're gonna keep bringing this content to you guys because we have so much fun doing it, and we're glad you guys are here to join us. So, we got one more episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I am anticipating it's gonna be a banger, and we're gonna hopefully have an insane conversation the next day, and
no boners.
Hopefully,
no boners.
None of that.
Who thought we'd ever be rooting for no boners? Wow. All right, guys, it's been real.
See y'all.
See you on the Jedi Jive next week, guys. Have a good one.
Jenny, when you retweeted